Naproxen sodium.
I'm telling you, it's been the worst. Hey everybody, my name's Cameron. Welcome to Operation Wisedome. This is Saturday, May the 31st. Y'all already know how we do. Today we got a special guest. My boy's name is Kirk Pendergrass. I want to shout out to Doug for making this one happen, arranging it up. I've actually watched Kirk quite a few times on Facebook in his lives, so it's pretty cool that we finally got this arranged up to where we could have Kirk on. So today's going to be pretty interesting. A couple of things I wanted to go into before we get into Kirk is just some of the things we've been working on this week. This week's been pretty heavy. Of course, y'all already know what's up if you've been paying attention and you're in the Discord. Quentin got his ass arrested again. Within 2 weeks, got his ass arrested again. Had a trooper actually do a U-turn on his ass, okay? U-turn on a 55-mile-an-hour road. He wasn't speeding. He wasn't doing that. He claims, I think, that the dude said he saw the plate in the rearview mirror while they're doing 55. I don't see how that's possible, but sounds good. Not gonna hold. So, but he got all his stuff out yesterday, and if you're, I'm supposed to be headed out to Kansas on Tuesday. So it looks as though with Quentin's new arrest as of last week, because we just had Sydney and Matthew's aspect, and then Kate's just a couple weeks before, and then Quentin had that arrest from Butler County about 3 weeks ago. So that class action lawsuit is looking like we're going to get that completed, filled out, at least drafted on this upcoming week for them down in Kansas. And then we're just going to get really, we're going to get out in the streets, all right? I'm about to get out in the streets and show these sheriffs what's up. We've got to go file some notice of liabilities. We're about to really get in their face, okay? Because the egregious violations, when there is no harm, is ridiculous. This morning, I got a couple police departments that I follow on my Facebook. And I saw this morning on Facebook someone or the sheriff's department show a really bad, I think it was like 10 frames per second video of someone pulling a dog out of the back of their car and then driving off and leaving the dog. Now, as much as I don't agree with someone doing that, I still don't think that that's a crime. Would anybody else agree that that's a crime? Does somebody else want to say, oh, well, no, that is a crime?
There are crimes for when it comes to animals like that because it's considered animal endangerment. And if you have an animal and you take on the responsibility of caring for it, and then you do something like abandoning it on a side of a road or something like that, it is considered a crime that they can come after you for animal abuse.
Now, see, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that because, again, you leaving something is not harming another person.
But what if the animal bit somebody?
If the animal bit somebody, that's different. But again, we don't operate on what ifs.
You're right, but that's just a question that they're gonna ask.
If it happens, it happens, and then you're in trouble. It's kind of like this. I can't be. It's like saying, oh, well, you have to have insurance because what if you hit somebody? Well, if you can't say.
I've never been the cause of any accident in any vehicular thing in my life personally, but this is my point. You know what I'm saying? Like, I resonate with what your point that you're trying to make. It's just like they're gonna ask these questions and they're gonna fight. They're gonna fight for it. That's what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
And we have to just be prepared for it. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, straight.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I think being prepared for it. But yeah, no, I just think the damage, the harm, right? I can understand it being a violation. I can understand it being wrong, right? Morally. But a crime? No. We know that a crime is harm to another. That's just how it goes.
100%. Yeah, 100.
The other thing is most of those statutes also consider like dogs and animals sentient beings, which I find is interesting as well.
Tell me my dog. She'll show you how sentient and intelligent she is.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, I don't knock that. I'm just saying, like, they don't treat us like that. I wish they treated us like that too.
For real.
You have a Malinois, right? Is that what you said, Alira?
I do. I have a purebred working lineage Malinois.
Absolutely amazing creatures they are.
Her lineage literally traces back to one of her ancestors is listed as Airport Dog 1 over in Belgium.
Well, I think the correct term should be private property.
Yeah.
Cattle.
Yep.
Yeah. Most definitely. Okay, so let me see. So So yeah, we had that go on and with Quentin, and then I was just checking out the dog stuff. Then this week, what we've been doing, or at least over these past couple of days, is we're finally bringing to fruition, y'all, the traffic law reform bill and petition, right? So the petition in and of itself, plus the bill. I think the first state that we're going to be sending this off to get representatives, as far as conservatives anyways, on our side is going to be Washington. I think second aspect may be Illinois. But we're bringing it forth. We're bringing it forth. Actually, let me show y'all real quick. So what I've been doing over the past couple of days is doing a revision of the New Hampshire bill. Oh, I think I gotta pause this so I keep that. Yeah, I don't want to. Okay, so we're doing a revision of the the Minnesota? Or no, is it New Hampshire? It's New Hampshire, right? So let me see. We got overleaf. And this is pretty cool because y'all already know about the traffic law reform. If you don't know about the traffic law reform, we have, that's Gabriella. We have over 1,500 signatures now in relation to getting Washington bill. Traffic law reform initiated and started. I really need to start amping this up again because we need to get this up to about 10, 20,000 ASAP. But we still are getting signatures roll in, right? Every couple days or so. But we need to get this up. We need to get this up a little bit more. And again, this is on our traffic law reform. We're asking for laws to be changed, statutes, should I say, because I don't like to call them laws. We already know that we operate under the common law, natural law, God's law, because this is God's land. But the aspect that we are wanting to get, and we will get it, the decriminalization of a lot of these statutes out here that are hurting our people. And so what we've done is we've created a bill that we're going to have to fine tune just a little bit more. Not too much more, but getting our sponsors in here at least. A bill that is literally affirming and codifying the inherent and unalienable, right to travel as recognized by the Washington State Constitution and federal jurisprudence, and requires that the Department of Licensing to provide at no cost to all non-commercial automobile and non-commercial conveyance owners a decal and identification card that state the holder is exempt from registering his or her automobile or other private conveyance under the superior authority of RCW 62A.9A-109 of the Uniform Commercial Code, which provides for the exemption of non-taxable consumer goods and household goods. Wow, that's a long sentence. Beautiful. All right. So that's what we're doing. You already know. This is in correlation and parallels the New Hampshire bill, y'all. New Hampshire. Which we've gone through, which y'all already know was passed. Where is the votes? Votes. Back in 2019 on that lower side, we had 262 yays to 68 nays, and it did pass. So the fact that it passed is why I think we should parallel and adopt the same type of language in relation to try and get these bills passed, introduced, and at least an introduction to get some voting done. Because the egregious violations as far as deaths are concerned to people across our nation because of a tag, because of a license plate, because of any of those aspects is beyond me. I don't get it. I don't get how my private property can be stolen and taken away from me for a tag. Don't make no sense. So that is what else we got update this week. What else we've been doing? Oh, we've been working on the bills of particulars and motions or notices for more definite statements. Those are very big because they are requirements. If you missed out on that show on Wednesday, I think I might go ahead and post it up on YouTube here soon. I just got to end up finding the guy that was walking around naked on screen on Wednesday night. So yeah, that was kind of weird. But we do. he was doing it.
Those are not optional on this call.
I'm talking about. Say that again, Troy.
I said clothes are not optional on this call.
Are not optional. Are not optional.
Are not optional. Yeah, you gotta be dressed.
Gotta be dressed.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Glad I missed that. I'm glad I missed that part.
Yeah, that boy.
Yep, me too.
Agreed.
Start for life.
I didn't miss it. Homeboy walking right across the stage. I said, what? Damn. Damn. All right. Do we have let me see, let me check and see who all we got in here today. I didn't send out an email, so that's why we're a little bit low. I sent out a foundational email, but across the board I didn't. So that's cool. We'll still put it on YouTube. Okay. So what I want to go ahead and do then is where was we at? Oh no, Cameron, why'd you mess that up? Let's see here. Okay. So who we got today is our featured guest, Kirk Pendergrass. He's a constitutional strategist. He has a show, and he is a host of Monday Night Law, and he is the founder and president of Kirk's Law Corner. Kirk is renowned for no-nonsense breakdowns of statutes and case law and 5D chess due process tactics that keep bad actors or officials on their heels. And he has a laser-focused mission to teach Americans their rights and how to wield them. So I wanted to just bring on today, everybody, y'all welcome Kirk Pendergrass.
Welcome, my brother.
Welcome.
Welcome, Kurt.
Thank you, Kurt.
Thrilled to have you here, sir.
So
Awesome,
Kirk,
thank you.
yes, no, yeah, we'd love to have you, brother. So Kirk, why don't you give us a good intro of yourself, how you got involved with law, how long you've been in law. I know we spoke just briefly just a moment ago, but feel free to take the floor, introduce yourself, and yeah, we're all ears, brother.
All right. Well, thank you. Greatly appreciate the welcome here. I guess I'll kind of start my background here is in 1985, I was the child at almost 14 years old that was kidnapped by CPS, the state of Washington, from my family. So I've got to experience what it's like to be the child. I know that they're corrupt and liars. And so that was my foyer into learning about corruption in government. Went off, joined the Marine Corps there when I became of age, and everything was good there. Had some issues in the Marine Corps as well, but basically dealing with the driver's license thing, always wanting to suspend my driver's license. And back in 1995-ish there, 93, 94, I actually hooked up with a guy in jail who was like, oh yeah, you have the right to travel. You have the right to travel. And I'm like, okay. So I kind of started studying that. And then basically sitting in the jail cell there in 1995, I made a vow to God that I'd start studying law so I wouldn't get screwed like that again. I had no idea that it was going to turn into what it's turned into. This was just a for me type thing. And yeah, it's just been study a little bit of law here and there over the years since 1995. And then it became exponential in basically 2015, dealing with my son and getting into the family law stuff, and connected with a gentleman, Christopher Hallett, who was my partner there with E-Clause. Now this will touch on a little bit about what Doug was asking about earlier, the right of petition or remonstrance or address. There are actually three different rights, and essentially went to Congress with a petition challenging the bar as a monopoly, and you cannot license the practice of law, and reporting on judicial corruption. This was in 2017. Wonder why he was
After the bar.
murdered.
Going after the bar, bro.
That's it.
Damn.
So I don't know if you all seen recently, Pam Bondi, she's kind of attacking the bar. How they're incompetent and they're using their position of employment basically as an advantage.
Exactly
That's
what
all.
needs to happen.
Oh yeah, the bar needs to go away.
Yes.
That's it. Even Joseph's story in his commentaries on the Constitution lays out under that title of nobility clause and the right to the assistance of counsel. He uses the word odious claim to set up this basically like different classes of citizens or people. It would be an odious claim, which if you look up synonyms for odious, one of my favorite ones is skanky.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's a skanky claim to say that, well, I'm better than you are, and I have a higher standing than you, and I'm the only one that can practice law. Really?
Yep. It's communism
Really?
across the world.
Well, I'm going to drop a bomb on you folks because I'm not sure many people even comprehend this. And this is what I do, right? I study law and history of law, and I've discovered Blackstone's commentaries on the law of England, law of nations, Lex Parliamentaria Americana, elements of the law and practice of the legislative assemblies of the United States of America. This is law that I'm citing right now. That's law and our source of part of the common law. But the thing is this is what we should be reading.
Hold on, Willie. Be right there.
Absolutely.
David.
It should be.
Yeah, the bomb I'm going to drop on you starts. Let's take a look at the Declaration of Independence. It says, subjecting us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution, unacknowledged by our law, and subjecting us to pretended acts of legislation. My first question to the rest of you here, just give a little test here. What jurisdiction are they referring to that's foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our law? Does anybody know?
Admiralty Maritime. Admiralty Maritime. No,
Nope.
I'm stumped.
Yeah, I don't know either, or at least what you're thinking.
You were just showing it on your
Oh God,
proposed bill there.
don't do me.
This is a serious thing. Now we have what's called 3 jurisdictions of fundamental law. Now this has a direct effect on our form of government, on a form of government, I should say, as a fundamental law. And I like to refer to this as a government in a box. So in one box, we have what's called Roman civil law, the code. Okay. The second one is called feudal law. The third one is called common law. Now, the origin of the common law is from the Saxons, the Protestants, Christian Protestants. And it is maxims of law and customs, not what we've been led to believe and told and forced down our throat that common law is stare decisis, or also known as case law, to trick the people. It's the law of the case, which only applies to the parties to the case because it's a contract. Everything is a contract. So it's Roman civil law, the code. Now, I've discovered this Code of Civil Procedure Act, one that was done in Congress in 1873. Reconstruction Acts. I found it in our Idaho legislative session laws in 1881. It subverts, it's that government in a box. So you have Roman civil law in this box over here. It doesn't necessarily do constitutions. So you come over here and let's look at the box that has common law in it. What is in that box? As common law, we have the laws of nature, the law of nations, basically our rights as the law. That's the common law, which includes constitutions as law of the land, the common law of the land.
Right.
So this is supposed to be our law. What we're referring to out there as statutes is actually all code.
Right.
Now, to really send this home, under the Code of Civil Procedure Act, it's very much just like a constitution. It creates the courts. It creates the legislative powers, which this goes back to a monarchy form of government, which does not have 3 distinct branches of government. They have 2. You have parliament and you have king, which is all balled into one, the executive and judicial, all balled into one.
Right.
And this has been through history, the test of time. This is the same issue over and over and over and over again. Is this Roman civil law, the code?
Oh,
So this isn't the first time we've been here. But even the Trump administration, I don't think they realize this.
No,
They don't know. They're still acting under code and using the code. When we say United States Code, Code of Federal Regulations, Uniform Commercial Code, Idaho Code, Revised Code of Washington, that's all Roman civil law. That is a jurisdiction foreign to our form of government, unacknowledged by our law, and we're being subjected to these pretended acts of legislation. Now, you go look up your stuff, and what does it say? Like for Idaho, I look up just a current legislative session, says to amend this section of the Idaho Code. Where's the statute? Statutes are part of common law.
Right.
Code, Roman civil law, it is just code. There are
Right.
no statutes.
Right.
That's that back to that government in a box. So if there's anything that I can put out there today that people need to grasp this, comprehend this, that this is the root of the problem, is the choice of law, our fundamental law. And we go back to Law of Nations, Book 1, Chapter 3, Section 34. The question was asked and answered, does the legislative branch have the authority to alter the fundamental law? The answer is no, because they can't alter the laws of its own creation, right? We, the people, lay down the law, and then that's supposed to be executed by the public servants, the citizens. That's Law of Nations, Book 1, Chapter 19, subsection 212. Citizens are members of the civil society who are bound to perform certain duties and is subject to its authority. That's the public servants that are the citizens.
Now, let me ask you something on this one. This one's cool. When you speak of the citizens in that definition that you just used, as far as your reference, when was that book published?
Patel started in the early 1700s.
Oh, early 1700s then.
And
So
it
they
is
was
regarded as international law.
So they was
Now,
already hitting in the 1700s from the citizen aspect as one who was succumbing or had a duty, like a lower class. See, because this is my thing, Kirk. I got shit like, I don't know, you probably ain't seen this one because you don't know too much about it yet, which is okay. That's cool. This is going to make it fun then. But I got some shit like this, right, that be tripping me out in correlation to, I guess, just some of my aspects. And I don't hold too much to it. I've kind of gone back and forth. And what am I looking for? What am I looking for? I'm looking for joint resolution. Yeah, this one. Okay, so this joint resolution came out in 1940, so a lot, way after 1700s, clearly. So don't take too much with it, but I do think that this is kind of crazy. And it's made me kind of change my stance on how I view the term sovereign citizen, right? And it says and this is 1940, it's authorizing the President of the United States to proclaim, I am an American, which I already love, I am. You already know how deeply, well, maybe you don't. But for the recognition, observance, and commemoration of American citizenship, whereas some 2 million young men and women in the United States each year reach the age of 21 years, and whereas it is desirable that the sovereign citizens of our nation be prepared for their responsibilities and impressed with the significance of their status in our self-governing republic. So that's a very good sentence, if you know what I'm saying? Because first off, you got sovereign citizens, number one, and then you got the real true aspect of a right to self-govern. And that form of government which we have, which they try to put over into a democratic or blah blah blah, however else they want to label it. But the true label, which I don't even like titles and nobilities, but if we have to label it or give it some description, would be our self-governing republic, right? And in that, they're saying the highest status that you can get with that is a sovereign citizen. And how I think of this, Kirk, and you can correct me if I'm wrong because I love perspectives. Real talk. Like, I'm fluid, so I'll change my perspectives with new information. How I see it, though, is that an American has duties. Period. Right? Don't you think an American has some sort of duties as an American? Just say yes or no real quick. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Yep.
Kirk? Wait, Kirk. Yes or no?
Very, 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 very limited. And it depends on who you're actually what you're claiming your status is. Are you an inhabitant, or are you a different kind of citizen as one of the people having political rights? Or are you a member of the legislative, executive, or judicial branch, either state or federal, who shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution? If you're not a member of the legislative, executive, or judicial branch, either state or federal, you're not bound by the Constitution. That Constitution is in actual contract. Read it. Articles.
Right.
Article 1, Article 2, Article 3, the original Bill of Rights, 1791, are articles in addition to an amendment to the Constitution. I actually have a verified copy of the original 1791 Bill of Rights. It's authenticated by R.J. Reynolds, no less. But certificate of authentication of the original Bill of Rights, they are articles. Now, if you do any research and go back through like what I've go through, I have 7 different volumes of all of the organic laws and constitutions of all of the history of America, going back to, clear back to 1592. It's in 7 volumes. It has all of the organic laws and the creations of all the different states, treaties, and all this stuff. I mean, it's 7 volumes that contains all of this information in there. So there's a lot of reading, but you want to, look at the history of your particular state, nation state, it's there.
So just real quickly then, so how do you feel about this in relation to what I read, right? Because this is how I see it now, Kurt. I think of when I hear that word sovereign, I'm already hearing free. That's solid, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then when I hear citizen, I'm hearing American. Okay. What I'm hearing free American when I hear sovereign citizen. And the reason I say American is because Americans do have duties. Doug, what kind of duty, or not Doug, Troy, what kind of duties do they have?
Being American is a challenge to the highest ideals and aspirations of mankind. Self-sacrifice, to devotion, to loyalty and patriotism, to joyful work and contagious achievements, to magnanimity and charity, to all and malice to none, as we seek to uphold to perpetuate the principles of our great nation and republic.
You see how that works? Now, you can't tell me that wouldn't be a duty you're willing to take on, right or wrong? Kirk, I'm asking you now.
Oh, absolutely. Even in the Law of Nations, it talks about being a patriot.
Yep.
And a patriot will not, in a time of, corruption or outbreak of rioting or anything like that, will not flee his country and abandon the nation. They'll be a coward, and they actually should be brought back and executed. According to the Law of Nations.
We have
so we do have a duty, and it's in the Declaration of Independence.
And it's in that Ion American Act too, that they're supposed to train our children on the law before they reach the age of majority, and they don't do that either.
No
actually, there's an interesting point right there. With their statutes, taking these statutes and stuff down. Henry Lee out there, General Lee, in the base of underneath the statute there was a time capsule box in there, and I've got the video of it, of them cutting this metal box open. And one of the books that they pulled out of there was 4th grade education on the law. And what I try to explain to people is, back prior to basically Reconstruction era, these kids, by the time they were 12 years old, knew the law like nobody's business. They knew how to do their own documents. They know how to prosecute their own claims.
Nice.
Attorneys, members of the bar, weren't real prevalent back then. Everybody knew the law by the time they were 12 years old.
Now watch out how you use that word attorney. I'm an attorney. I just stay an attorney at law.
Attorney is one who attorns, one who takes from another and gives to himself, basically, or to another, to attorn. Now, lawyer is one who is knowledgeable on the law. One who speaks the law is a law sayer. You're from Latin means to speak or to do, to speak the law. Has nothing to do with being a member of the bar. It's more trickery for you. There's that what we call bar word salad.
Well, that's what I'm assuming you like etymology pretty good then.
Oh, absolutely. Love etymology.
Yeah, okay, good.
It destroys any distortion of words and changing the true meaning and definition of a word, because English language, the American English language, is a seriously bastardized language.
Yeah, it is.
That if anybody, I've never studied any other language, but I had a hard time comprehending the English language. And now I kind of know why, because I'm a very logical man. I have an extremely high mechanical aptitude and IQ, documented twice.
Smart
so
guy,
it didn't make any sense to me why I had this English language. Now, mathematics, I excelled in mathematics. So there's the logic. So it's like English language does not make sense to me. But when you go back to etymology, you find out, oh, most all of our language comes from French, Latin,
Hebrew,
Greek. It's like, oh, well, it's just a bastardized language of all these other languages. So this is what really helps, going to etymology, and I use etymology all the time.
Yep, it's a big deal.
Anybody tries to tell me,
lot.
well, what does this word mean, and try to tell me what it means, I said, well, hold on. Let's go look at etymology and find out the origin of that word in the English language, where it came from and what it meant when it was created.
Right. Yep. So that kind of pulls us into that aspect of always utilizing the whole act rule. When was the act created, right? And then how can we utilize its intent in the creation, and then how they've changed it to this day. And so, yeah, we use that a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. That's cool. I like that. Okay. Geez. Okay, so how you want to segue? You want to segue into some remonstrance talk? You want to talk about some successes you've had, some current things you've been working on? Where are you at? Where are you at? What you want to do?
Well, we could talk a little bit about successes. I've had a few cases dismissed, especially during the COVID thing, not wearing a mask and trespassing.
Yeah.
I did a public records request for proof of COVID-19's existence, where it's been isolated, purified with a genome sequence of 30 to 40,000 base pairs. I wanted pictures of it. I wanted dimensions. Oh, no such records exist.
Oh,
Viruses do not exist, folks, period. It's all a big hoax. It's a scam.
Imagine that.
It's either parasites, bacterial, or
Exosomes. Exosomes.
No, bacterial or fungal infection.
Okay, fungal infection. You know that I have a real good link over to Dr. Andrew Kaufman.
Look at let's see,
And Rick
Dr.
Cohen
Barbara
too.
O'Neill, Dr. Brian Artis.
Artist, yeah.
There's a gentleman who was on the world stage. I have the video of it. They were on the world stage. Sasha Stone was on there. But he flat out says viruses do not exist.
No, they don't. They're
On
exosomes.
the world stage,
Didn't they
international stage.
a bunch of poisons from different, like 20 different poisonous species and put them in the water or the air or something?
Well, let's not get off on a too far tangent.
Right.
Tom. Yeah.
But that's just one of the things. And, telling us that we have to wear a mask, no. Like it says in the Idaho Code, it says there's a time and a place to use the Idaho Code or your state code or whatever, but use it to your advantage when you can. But it said it must be a lawful condition upon entrance. Lawful, not legal, meaning full of law. Where's the law? Right says the law. So if I already have this right of self-determination, which we'll talk about here shortly, about the three primary absolute rights of the laws of nature. But the first one there is the right of personal security. One of the elements of personal security is the right of self-determination of our health, free
Right.
will.
Self-governance.
Well, right of self-determination,
Yeah.
right? We get to determine for ourselves what is beneficial to our health.
Right.
Now, if man is created equal and independent of one another, and anything created by his fellow man, there has to be a contract there. Whether, the fact is we have this free will, the right of self-determination to choose for ourselves what's good for us and what's not good for us. In fact, that's actually in your RCWs under the ethics clause, that kind of the same one that we have here in Idaho, that we, the people of Idaho, in creating the instruments of government that serve them, do not yield their sovereignty to the agency so created.
Oof,
Now, there's the reciprocal to that in Washington that goes even further, and it says it's not up to the legislature to decide what's good for us and what's not good for us to know.
See, that's why I
It
love.
kicks them to the curb.
That's what I'm saying. I love Washington in a lot of ways for what they be having. It's like, see, I'm big on the proponent of right to travel. That's what we're trying to change right now, and it's not so much the aspect of we're trying to change it. We're actually just trying to change the mentality, because it's already laid out. It's pretty. It's black and white. Okay. but it's like we just have the ignorance. But yeah, Washington statutes are really nice. Like every municipality, which I've really been able to find in almost in every municipal code and or county code throughout the nation thus far, which is the definition of whether it be road, highway, street, it's all open as a matter of right for public vehicular travel. And it literally states that open as a matter of right. So if we're having those aspects both in the municipal and the county code, it's like they're not only are they violating, constitutional aspects, but their own code in which they're out here supposed to enforce. It's like we know their code, they don't even know their code, and they're out here violating their code. It's like, bro, it's pretty bad. So
I want to add something here to this, and I did the whole right to travel thing until I found the laws of nature. The real right is the second primary absolute right from the laws of nature, which is the right of personal liberty, which consists in the power of locomotion, of changing situation and going wherever you want to go, uninhibited by anything made by their fellow man.
Kirk,
Out of Blackstone's Commentaries on the Law of England.
What does personal liberty include?
Freedom of movement. Freedom. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Genesis 1:26 through 28. God created the heavens, the earth, the land, the water, and the air, and gave man dominion. This is where the word freedom comes from, is free dominion. So no man is higher than any other man. No man can tell another man what to do.
Right.
Period. That's a fundamental principle at the root of all law. Right? We're equal here. So if we're equal, I have no authority to tell you what you have to do.
Correct.
You don't have to seek Hale versus Hinkle, right?
Yep.
You're familiar with Hale versus Hinkle?
Come on, man.
Right. We have no duty to the state or to our neighbors to open up our books and papers or doors on the suit of the state, because we receive nothing therefrom except for the protection of our life and our security, right?
Yep.
Our life and our liberty. That was the intent in the Declaration of Independence, as well as the Law of Nations. The intent of creating government is to secure the rights from the laws of nature.
Correct. Thank you.
And
Cool.
in Blackstone, in his commentaries, it's coeval everywhere over the whole globe. Anything that comes in conflict with the laws of nature is void for any effect from its inception, void ab initio.
Not void, not voidable, but void. But void.
Comment here says, glad he mentions Blackstone. I'll admit, I had Blackstone's Commentaries on the Law of England for a few years until, and I was reluctant to read it because, well, it's England, it's English, it's, screw the bar, screw their stuff, and I'm like, then that New York Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin case there in 2022. What did the Supreme Court of the United States of America cite as at the root of the right to keep and bear arms, which shall not be infringed? They cited Blackstone's Commentaries on the Law of England, right there, that right of personal security as a fundamental right of self-defense.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, if the Supreme Court of the United States of America is going to cite from Blackstone as an authoritative source of law, then I would behoove us that we should be reading it as well.
Yep.
So I broke down. I'm like, okay. And it even gone so far that one of my followers who bought me actually all 4 volumes.
Dang.
So I actually have the original writing, which has like letters that are like F's or F's.
Yep.
The old English writing.
Old English. That shit's hard to read, bro.
And
that shit's hard to read. I ain't gonna lie. I've read quite a few books like that, and it can get hard sometimes. The spelling's all off. The spelling's completely different.
The more you read it, the more you just my mind is already automatically trained to just read right on through it now.
Yeah.
But as you can see, here's one that I've just bookmarked the crap out of. And that one's volume 4. That one's on public wrongs. Book 1, technically speaking, they list this as 2 volumes, book 1 and book 2, book 3 and book 4. But in the book form, they're actually 4 books. So here's volume 1, and this whole section just right here is right here where all of the laws of nature, the 3 primary absolute rights. And I'm going to read that
Awesome.
one section there
Okay.
Awesome, Kirk.
about the laws of nature,
I love it.
because we need to know this.
Yes, we do.
Knowledge is power. We don't have this knowledge, we ain't got no power.
Yeah, boy. Kirk coming with that fire. Y'all better watch out. Ah!
The Declaration of Independence states that specifically, that we are bound by the laws of nature.
Yes. And among these rights is what? Life, liberty, and they say pursuit of happiness, which actually has to do with property. That's the 3 primary absolute rights being enumerated in the Declaration of Independence.
Yep.
Life, which is the right of personal security. Liberty, personal liberty. Property, the right of, and it's called private property. Don't use personal property. It's private
Right.
property.
Right. Good stuff. Love it.
Let's see, where the heck do I have this? I thought I had that written. No, there's Roman civil law, the code. Roman civil law. Yeah, here we go. This is essentially volume 1, book 1, chapter the 2nd, page 41. This law of nature, being coeval with mankind and dictated by God himself, is of course superior in obligation to any other. It is binding over all the globe, in all countries, and at all times. No human laws are of any validity if contrary to this, and such of them as are valid derive all their force and all their authority, mediately or immediately, from this original.
Oh my gosh.
That is the intent of creating government worldwide, is to secure these rights.
Exactly.
And then, what do we call it? What is it called when it, what kind of form of government is it called? Now, that's where we get into like Montesquieu and his spirit of laws, different forms of government. What is it called? And it's actually in the Declaration of Independence, that form of government called when they don't recognize these rights. Any ideas?
I would say
Tyranny. Tyranny.
Right, but it's a form of government called a despotic government.
Despotic. Yeah.
Somebody said monarchy. That might as well call a monarchy, but there is a distinction between a monarchy and a despotic government. But a monarchy, their known rule of war is warfare. They want to conquer. Imagine that. If you read history, how much of that Roman Empire, the Roman Catholic Church, as an ideology, Catholicism, what their whole thing is about.
Right.
Conquer, war.
Right.
They want that one world government. And then we get into the Jesuits and all of that stuff.
Wouldn't that be democracy?
Say again?
Wouldn't that be democracy also?
Nope, that's under a republic. There's 3 different types of republics.
Collectivism.
No. We have democracy, aristocracy, and a confederacy. We're supposed to be a confederate republic, not a constitutional republic, not a representative democracy, not all these other terms. See, and this is the reason why I go and study law and read it for myself, so I know the truth. There are 3 forms of 3 basic forms of government. You have the monarchy, you have a republic, and you have despotic governments. Pick one. Now, if you're going to pick a republic, what kind of a republic?
Self-governing.
Is it a democracy? Is it an aristocracy? Or is it a confederacy? Now, the confederacy, that's that union,
address the
league of friendship.
Well, Daniel's asking that you touch base a little bit on the self-governance aspects. And then Lynn made a comment about 11 minutes ago that says, this guy's smart so far. And,
So far.
Yeah, go ahead, Kirk. Talk about a little bit.
I know a few
governance
things.
aspect.
I don't know it all, and I don't.
I
claim
know
to
you
it
don't.
all, and I'm definitely open to learning new things.
No, listen, I'm gonna tell you about what Wisedome is, okay? Why do you think, well, let me, like I ask a lot of the people that come on, what is your definition of a mastermind then?
That you've mastered your mind, that you're in full
Oh,
100%
oh, oh, that's enough. You
control of
did
your
it.
in
You
and
did it.
output.
You did it. You did what I needed you to do. You brought home the mastermind as yourself or as one person. Okay? That's not
One
what
man.
Yeah, no, that's not where it comes from. So Napoleon Hill, I'm sure you know of, that guy that used to follow around a whole Think and Grow Rich and all those books he wrote back in the day. He used to follow around, okay, well, he followed Henry Ford and all the successful people in that time and figured out what made them successful.
Aha.
And what he figured out was that it was a collective group of individuals that came together to make one mind, thereby making a mastermind. And he's the one who actually coined that term, mastermind. So
Well, even
that's why
God tells us that we're supposed to have a multitude of counsel.
for sure. That's why I
No
say
man
that's
shall
why
know it all.
that's why we call it Wisedome, right? Because we come together collectively with all of our perspectives to be able to build this. I don't want to say hive mind, but at least a community that is intellectually aware of what's going on all different aspects of research and perspective. So when you say I don't know it all, you know enough of what you need to know to operate in this realm, and whatever you know and what we know can come together and just man, bro, change your soul.
You know how much more powerful we are working together and bringing unity. And hey, even if you've just been studying for 6 months or a year and you've got just one piece of the puzzle, and I like to explain it like this: I've been working on a 10,000 piece puzzle since 1995. Some days I'm like, oh man, I'm probably up somewhere around 6,000 pieces of this puzzle put together. I'm starting to see the picture, and then I'll meet somebody and they'll toss me a couple pieces of puzzle, and I go, oh crap. Oh wait, no, this puzzle's much bigger. I guess I'm back down to about 4,000 pieces out of 10,000. Just talking to one man and getting a little tiny piece of information.
Right.
That's been the story of my life for the last 15 years.
Right.
So I've had to learn to humble myself and all right, yeah, okay, some new information, and that changes some things. Or sometimes it's like, ooh, I know exactly where that piece of the puzzle goes, and then I see a clearer picture, at least in that portion of the 10,000 piece puzzle, makes that section a lot more clear.
Yeah.
So, but bringing unity and bringing people together, mankind together here, and even Montesquieu talks about this, we're supposed to assemble the most intelligent minds.
Yeah.
So I welcome this.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. We do too. Yeah, this is lit. I ain't seen it been done like this in a while, at least on the law aspect, trying to figure everything out. And oh gosh, I'm just pissed. And just
I was thinking that was outside.
Yeah, no, baby girl's going mad. Anyways, yeah, on the just bringing everybody together like this, it's really, really cool. So let's now kind of transition over into maybe remonstrance. I know Doug has been saying he's been finding out a lot of good information from you in relation to remonstrance, and I just wanted to see how have you been using the remonstrance and how are y'all applying it, and how are you seeing the successes or just disadvantages or problems?
Okay, so let's explain the difference between a petition and a remonstrance. Essentially, a petition is a political lawsuit. We talk about filing a Title 42, 1983. That is a petition in the judicial branch. This petition is for the redress of grievances. It goes to the legislative branch. This comes from the common law. It's in Lex Parliamentary Americana. Now, a lot of people don't understand, and I had to learn this myself, and I learned this from Chris back in 2017 when we did our 3 hours, 33 minute, and 34-second video. I'm like, wait a minute. And he's like, yeah, there's rules of procedure for the legislative branch. I'm like, get out of here. I looked up on my Idaho website, pulled it up. Sure. Yep. You got House rules, you got Senate rules, you got joint rules. Some states have what's called general rules. And then when you read these rules of procedure, just like in the judicial branch, there's rules of procedure, how to proceed. You find in the legislative, most 70% of the states use what's called Mason's Manual Legislative Procedure. Now, I've got the 2010 edition. I've got the 2020 edition in hardback. And, it's about as big as my hand. I can put it in the palm of my hand. It's just a little bit bigger than the palm of my hand. But I was able to read the whole book in about 2.5 hours. So it's like, well, then I started reading down at the bottom there, the footnotes and all that stuff. And I kept seeing this stuff called cushions, citing its source. What the heck is this cushions thing?
That's how it always be, Kirk. You always find what you really want in the footnotes. It's like,
Yes.
that's the secret, bro. Like, that's the same thing that happens.
That's the rabbit hole.
I'm telling you, well, it's kind of like, sorry not to take it too far away, but it's kind of like history. As I'm doing all the history stuff, because I do history too, but more on American history. And yeah, the secrets that I found normally are found in the footnotes. So yeah.
Yep. So this is this is what they do. And this is what I've discovered. And unfortunately, after my partner Chris was murdered, I said at the beginning there when I was reading the 2010 edition, I'm like, man, we need to look up what this cushion thing is, because it's almost on every single page citing from this cushion thing. And when I got the 2020 edition, it's the same thing. But I can tell certain people were watching our shows because we were explaining from the 2010 edition. We were going to the state, our different states. He was in Florida, I'm in Idaho. And we were showing the rules of procedure and how this all supposed to work and what powers we have and what duties they have to perform and how to demand it, how to instruct our representatives. See, they're the servants, we're the masters.
Right.
So, like a conductor conducts the band, the orchestra, whatever the conductor says, that's what they have to do.
Right.
To learn to conduct your own affairs. Now, a remonstrance, that is a formal written protest. That's how we are supposed to be protesting. This crap on the corners and all that stuff that people want to call protesting, that's called picketing.
Picketing.
That is not a protest.
I don't even like how that word sounds. Picketing. What?
Well, because he used to use pickets and with a sign on it.
Yeah, I don't like that word. I don't like how it sounds.
But a remonstrance is a formal written protest that you're protesting the legislation that is currently being made, that particular bill. And you're opposed to the passing of that bill, and you're protesting it. And you give your reasons why. Because. Now, in the petition, just like any other document you do in the judicial branch, has what's known as a prayer for relief. Now, this is where I like to explain why are we doing a prayer for relief in our documents? Who are we praying to? We're praying to God to convince that man's mind who's there to grant relief as we demand it.
Ooh,
right?
I love
that
it.
God convicts his mind. And here we go again. Why do we call it spelling? Because when we write the language, no matter what language it is, you are casting a spell. You are spelling it out. This is in the spiritual realm. Okay.
Green Bee just fell in
When
love.
anybody reads this, it convicts their mind. And like the Bible says, our tongues are sharper than a double-edged sword. So I try to say that I'm trying to raise up warriors to wield this double-edged sword. Can I get any man or woman who will stand in front of me and let me wield my double-edged sword back here? I highly doubt it. I haven't had any volunteers yet. Why? Because you already know that double-edged sword is going to cut you down big time if I wield it against you.
Yeah.
But what happens if I don't know how to wield the sword? I'm going to look like an idiot.
Yep.
Try to go into battle, and I've never wielded a double-edged sword. I'm probably not going to make it through the battle.
Nope.
Unless I got somebody backing me up, helping me out and defending me.
Another Wisedomian. Yep.
Right. So when we, and this even goes into the spiritual realm of things, when you cut your fellow man down, you make negative comments about them. Right.
Yep.
Some of us have experienced some of that on that side of things. So we know what it feels like to hear those words literally cut us down spiritually, emotionally. So it's the same thing when we start speaking the law, but you have to know the law in order to speak it. Like U.S. versus Miller, the claim and exercise of a right cannot be converted into a crime.
You know what's really interesting about some of the stuff that you're talking about too is you talking about you got to know how to wield that sword. My biggest thing on wielding that sword is knowing who you are in the first place. Because if you don't know who and what you are, you ain't gonna be able to wield it at all.
That's
See,
right.
a lot of people just really can't come to the comprehension that they are the most powerful thing in this reality.
Bingo.
It's the hardest thing for people to realize. Like, I've literally had grown men come and cry to me, bro, within the past 6 months since we started this up, talking about when, you saying I don't know who I am, that really hit me hard. Like it's like a therapeutic spiritual thing, because when you do know that you're a creation of the creator and that there is nothing above you until you harm another living being, period, it's like they can't comprehend that. It's like they don't see reality for what reality is.
Yeah.
And that
So,
sucks.
oh, that's your comment. It says, yeah, he on point spiritually as well. Here we
Yeah.
go. In reading some of the early constitutions, the 1776 era, some of them constitutions specifically state in there, if you do not claim the Christian religion and you do not claim who you are and the rights that come from God, you do not have them. That's right in the Constitution, the early 1776 era. So I implore people to read, learn what your rights are. One, you can read straight from the Bible. My Founder's Bible here has it all laid out in there from the laws of nature there from God as well. Or you could do a little cheating and read Blackstone's.
Troy put it in the chat for us too, so we all got it now.
Is Blackstone's the same as what Black's Law then became? Are those related? I was always wondered that.
It is. Blackstone was a prominent legal scholar and judge, basically, in England. Just like Joseph Story was a prominent legal scholar and judge in America on the Supreme Court. Now, he wasn't the Chief Justice, but man, our choice of law and choice of books to read from, I have narrowed it down to what we really need to be reading. A lot of people have asked me over the years, well, where can we read this common law? I'm like, this goes back to what I was talking about in Mason's manual, this cushion stuff. Finally looked it up, punched it in the internet and found it. It's called Lex Parliamentary Americana, Elements of the Law and Practice of the Legislative Assemblies of the United States of America.
I think he's going to go get the book right now. My boy going to grab that thing. I'm going to go grab the book real quick. I've got it. Probably so. I bet.
Yeah, this is fire.
Yeah, he good.
Definite fire.
He definitely on point too, because he really be on that aspect of knowing like, okay, go ahead. Yeah, so you got it.
I own these books.
Yeah, as you
I
should.
actually have the books. I have some of them PDF as well.
Yeah.
But Blackstone's, I also have the documents illustrated with the formation of the Union of the American states.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this then. How do you utilize them in real life? And how are you applying them?
I speak it. Just like everything that I'm speaking here today.
Okay.
Do you think I'm reading from something? No, that's right here. All off the top of my head. I know this stuff.
Let me ask you this. Do you smoke weed? Okay.
I declined to answer that question.
Okay, no comment. No comment. Yeah, I chief pretty heavily, and I tend to lose some information here and there. But overall, I know that I can guarantee you to find it because it's somewhere in there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I do puff a little bit at night before going to bed. That's
same here,
sleeping.
Well,
right? Because my mind literally goes like 100 and some miles an hour most of the time.
Yeah.
I could be out here doing something, yard work or whatever, and my mind is still just sitting there going, oh yeah, this, that, and putting all this stuff together.
I think a lot of us can relate to that for sure.
Yeah.
That's what they call ADHD. No, it's just a high functioning mind.
Yeah.
Comes back to the territory of that high level of IQ and mechanical aptitude. I get the mechanics of things like it's common sense.
Yeah, and that's a bad thing now, though, Kirk. You're not allowed to be that. So
To quote Charlie Kirk, I'm didactic, which
didactic.
means self-taught. I know
Yeah.
how to read and comprehend what I read. So
Now you don't use the autodidactic, but you just didactic. Yeah, I use the whole autodidactic with it, but yeah, we do need to go more back to an autodidactic society. See,
yeah,
that's how it was before we had the K through 12th grade system brought forth, right? And it was just you would autodidactically through your family learn and then bring forth into the colleges if you sought such. But
Yep.
yeah, once they brought through K through 12, it was just decline from there, bro. So
once they took
goes
over
back
the,
to
because the school used to be the church in our communities.
in our communities, yeah.
Yeah. So again, you understand history, and what it is they want to dumb down society so they can, read Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky, those 8 elements of taking a government down, which they've tried. Agenda 21. Now you got Agenda 2030. But this is what's in the middle of happening right now. And I don't want to go down that rabbit hole yet.
Yeah.
Probably today, but I've covered this stuff since Trump took office. Executive orders, proclamations. I've laid this stuff out as it was unfolding starting in 2017. Executive order 13818 is blocking the property of those involved in serious human rights abuse and corruption worldwide, December 20th, 2017. I'll give you that right now. That is what's going on worldwide, is taking down the corruption. The word pedophile, satanic rituals, adrenochrome, Ukraine is a
Amen.
world hub for men, women, and children, human trafficking, child trafficking, for whatever purposes they can think of. I used to say what we could think of, but it's what they think of. Organ harvesting, their satanic rituals, adrenochrome, whatever, eating them, all of that. Arms, money laundering, the Bushes, the Clintons, Obama, or Barry Soetoro.
Okay, don't get my YouTube banned so bad now, because this is gonna go on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
I'll edit it out.
a
I'll
little
edit it
bit.
out. Don't you.
Yeah, that's why I don't do
You're
YouTube
good.
anymore. Rumble, Telegram, Facebook. Facebook has actually kind of left me alone for several years.
They're chilling. They was horrible in COVID. I left and then I come back.
And X. I boycott YouTube because, yeah.
Hey, the self-governing republic falls under which then of the 3 different types of republic? The monarch, the confederacy, or the democratic? And is there any rule about intermixing them?
It's a confederacy.
It would be
It's a league of friendship.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yep.
Jinx.
That's right in the Articles of
into the
Confederation. A lot
so
of
it
people
falls
don't
into
even
the
know this, but we
Confederacy.
had a confederation in the early 1600s.
Bet we did.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Many of what we call colonies, but see, there's the other thing. There were territories, like the territory of Virginia, which was established with the first charter of Virginia in 1606. 7 of the states were literally created out of the territory of Virginia. Like when we had the Continental Congress starting in 1774, that was in Virginia. And what we call back then was Philadelphia.
Ooh.
Right? That was still within the territory of Virginia.
Ooh, Kirk, I got an idea. Hey, do you have a remonstrance that you could send over?
Yeah, pretty please.
Not a remonstrance.
Yeah.
I do have a petition on my website, kirkslawcorner.com.
Okay.
There's a petition on there that I drafted for Congress for this foreign invasion.
Okay.
Now, when you read that,
how about one of your personal goodies? Maybe the good Lord will grace your heart for this beautiful group we're in that loves you and is freeing America for all of us.
400 plus.
I do have some that I have drafted. I have yet to actually file them.
Filing it, yeah.
The petition. I did do one here recently for a gal. She went down there and they're like, well, we don't even understand this. And nobody's in session right now. And I'm like, where's all the standing committees? You say you meet on certain days down here, and nobody's here. How are we, reading the history on this right to petition in the history of constitutions? They're supposed to meet frequently and often so that we can redress our grievances at any time. This is the court of justice, is in the legislature. Courts of law are in the judicial, either at law, suits at common law, or Article 3, Section 2, suits in law under admiralty and maritime jurisdiction.
Right.
A lot of people try to say the original jurisdiction. I'm like, what do you know what origin or original mean?
Well,
It
that's
just
what
means it's supposed to originate there.
yeah, and that's what Tanner does speak on. He speaks on the original jurisdiction very, very heavily.
Well, again, original jurisdiction means it originates there. It's not a body of law.
Okay, go deeper in what you're trying to say here then.
Well, like it says in Article 3, Section 2, if it involves ambassadors, blah, 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 or a state is a party to the case, the Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction, meaning the case must originate in the Supreme Court.
Right, okay.
So
Now,
I got a question on that.
our fundamental law, back to the three primary fundamental laws, is supposed to be common law. That's it. Choose one. You can only pick one fundamental law as the foundational law, which has a direct effect on your form of government and how it operates. Question, go ahead.
Would that Article 3, Section 2, Paragraph 2 be an automatic appeal? Because administrative court has no jurisdiction over that? Because they're named a party?
Yes, it's called a motion to dismiss for lack of personal jurisdiction, lack of subject matter jurisdiction, and a lack of original jurisdiction or territorial jurisdiction, because the supreme law of the land dictates. In Article 6, Clause 2, the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of a state to the contrary or notwithstanding. A lot of people want to cite Marbury versus Madison. Forget Marbury versus Madison. Cite Article 6, Clause 2. That's the supreme law of the land.
That's right.
Yes. Anything that comes in conflict with the supreme law of the land is void for any effect. Yes. Marbury versus Madison. So if you got to have some stare decisis to reiterate what it already says, but show me where in the Constitution where we, the people, delegated the power to the judicial branch to make law, to subvert the law, to alter the law. It doesn't exist.
Right.
So
good stuff.
Wield that double-edged sword. You got to have the knowledge. And again, you all see that I'm just spitting this stuff out off the top of my head. I'm looking at my camera. I'm not reading anything here. I know this stuff.
So the problem we're running into when we go to court and we talk about jurisdictions is the judges will just pull up a map and point at it and say, this is my jurisdiction.
Yes. So here's what I've learned.
Go further, they tell us to say, what is it? Or then they say things and say that is the establishment of jurisdiction. And I don't think we're perfectly competent yet fully to state all the matters of jurisdiction. Maybe you have some.
Yeah. So the key is, what I try to explain to people for years is the first court we go into is the de facto kangaroo court. Kangaroo, look it up in Black's Law Dictionary, does not recognize rights. And then you add that the phrase is called choice of law. What is their choice of law? It's the Roman civil law, the code. Well, that jurisdiction is foreign to our form of government, foreign to our Constitution, unacknowledged by our law, because our law is supposed to be the common law, the law of nations, the laws of nature. That's supposed to be the law, what's in our box, government in a box, not Roman civil law, the code. But again, this has all been throughout history. They keep trying to impose this Roman civil law on us. And then the first fundamental principle of due process of law is notice and opportunity to respond. So everything we're doing is giving them notice, stay calm, stay in honor, follow decorum when you go to court, state your facts, make your arguments, present the issue, right? This is called IRAC. Issue, rule of law, analysis, and conclusion. This is how you debate. Argument. Argue is not fighting. Okay. Argue is just presenting your facts, evidence, the truth, and affording the man the opportunity to do the right thing. Now, when they don't do the right thing, well, that's a cause of action. Well, we're supposed to go to the legislature for oversight of that which the legislature creates, right? The legislature creates all these inferior courts. They're the ones that have oversight of the courts, the legislature. The judicial branch is not the end all be all, right? The representatives are direct elected by the people. They're subject to our authority. They have to do what we tell them to do. But you have to learn how to petition, file that political lawsuit, like it is in Idaho. It's Article 1, Section 2. No special privileges or immunity shall ever be granted that cannot be altered, revoked, or repealed by the legislature. So back to Hale versus Hinkle, there's a reserved right in the legislature to do an investigation to see if these corporations have exceeded the laws of its creation. So the legislature is the sovereign over that which it creates. See, sovereign means creator. Right. The people created government. The people delegated certain powers to the legislature with sovereignty, and therefore they are sovereign over that which they create. This is what the statute is supposed to be, is the law of creation, regulating those specific corporations that get a business license that binds them to that particular statute.
Now tell me this, what's the line of authority then?
The people.
No, but what is it? Explain the line of authority.
Down the ladder of authority.
Well, we start with God.
Okay.
Is the ultimate sovereign.
Yep.
God creates man, gives man dominion.
Yep.
And I've got this laid out on a whiteboard, and it's still on my whiteboard at the office.
Yeah.
And then you have mankind. Mm-hmm. Now, when you get into the law of nations, what is your status? First of all, you're man because of the laws of nature and God the sovereign.
Right. Now
we got man coming together, and we're going to say now we're the people.
Right.
Having political rights. We're not inhabitants. Partisan Federation. Free inhabitants, free citizens. Mm-hmm. Gee, it's almost like they read the law of nations. It's in the Constitution of the United States of America. Inhabitants, residents, citizen. You know, look at the qualifications to run for office. You got to be a certain age. You have to be a citizen for a certain amount of time. You cannot be an inhabitant. Inhabitants don't have political rights.
Right.
So you have to understand all these words, comprehend, then understand these words and how to properly use them. This is called diction, jurisdiction. The words we use put us in what body of law?
Right.
That's the trickery.
It is the trickery.
So then from there, that's above the line. Then below the line is contracts. Yeah. Right? Those members of government.
Yeah, but I wouldn't even say it's contracts, because right above contracts is the government in and of itself. The corporation is what implements the contracts, right?
It's not supposed to be a corporation.
I know it's not, but currently how it is how it's laid out.
That's Roman civil law.
I get it.
Monarchy, Roman civil law, corporate charters. That's how a monarchy form of government works.
For sure. But right? I'm speaking of in relation to that, though, how I view it as far as what it is that I actually do think it's supposed to be a corporation in a sense, right? And the only reason I say that, is that because we created it to do the work that we didn't want to do as sovereigns in our capacity. So as sovereigns in that full capacity, right, what happens is we're out here and we've created this aspect of this new government, and we got these rules now in place. We're away from these kings and these people trying to always control us. And we're like, shit, it's a lot of work. We got to do it all our damn self. Or we got to start hiring some people because we're a little bit lazy and we don't want to do the upkeep all the time, right?
So we created a board of directors.
Yes.
Legislature.
Okay, there we go.
So, but that's the problem. Then you get all these too many chiefs and not enough Indians.
Yeah.
Then we get into the administrative state, which is basically admiralty, but that is the Administrative Procedures Act of 1946.
Okay.
So basically anything after 1871 is all freaking, actually 1863 is all fraud. Fraud vitiates everything from its inception. They fundamentally altered our form of government starting in 1863. And the Civil War, right? This was all a fraud because John Adams paid off. Is it John Adams? No, it's who was the president back then? No, maybe it is Adams. I keep forgetting this one particular president at the time. He paid off the national debt. That's what caused the Civil War because monarchy wants to keep control. We were supposed to be free. But that was the second bankruptcy. The third bankruptcy was 1931. So we have the first bankruptcy, 1791, 1861, and then 1931. 70 years, huh? Why would they use the mortgage industry for that under bankruptcy? Very interesting rabbit hole to go down there.
Property.
Hey,
Right. This is where we get into the word unalienable. It's not unalienable. Unable to place a lien. Look up the root word lien. Etymology. It means to hold these rights as property, as chattel, until you pay the debt.
Well, Lyra
That's what
loves
they
you.
meant by the laws of nature are unalienable.
Yeah,
You
Lyra
cannot
loves you.
place a lien on these rights.
Yeah, Lyra
because
loves
they come
your
from
ass.
God, not
Man, let
from
me
him.
let this say this shit, man. Hey, Lyra loves your ass now, man, because you just said that like that. So
hey,
she,
Cam,
Preaching.
Cam,
Preaching.
I wanted to kind of clarify something when you said that we created government to do stuff we don't want to do. We created government to protect our rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. That's their job, and that's their first and only job.
yeah, that's their duty. I get that, but that's what I'm saying. Like, we didn't want to have to always be the enforcers and going out with pitchforks and going. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that's why it's like, as a community, when you're first starting off a community anywhere, that's what it's like. It's like community self-governance, right? You got rules, you're supposed to self-govern yourself. Then it's like people get out of line because the community get too big and now everybody's coming over to deal with the problem and situation until you finally get that protection, security, team, whatever the case may be. Like, it's just a natural process unless you're already thinking about having that implemented at the forefront, right?
And that's why we created the constitutions with the state, is to make sure that they are limited, not us. And under God's law, it's thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not bear false witnesses. This is all intricated into our laws.
Yeah,
absolutely.
In order for us to be able to function, as you said, we created a government and gave them certain duties to do, and they've gone beyond that. And like Kurt said, they turned it into a corporation, put it under martial law, and we've never been freed from martial law since Abraham Lincoln.
Yep. The Lieber Code. 1863.
When there's a right, there's a duty.
So that's why I think making notices, especially out to these agencies, like, I guess a big proponent for me has always been filing notice of liabilities with any agencies and or corporations and their agents. And I really just do it direct. Like, it's not like I'm gonna file a notice of liability or put my notice of liability if I ever get pulled over, right? I'm not gonna pull it out of my briefcase that I magically have and say, I'm serving you now. But I do make preemptive steps as far as going out directly to these departments and agencies and talking to the top dogs, right? The people who run the agencies, who's in charge, give notice, and they copy it and they file it. Well, if they're copying it and filing it, and then we have conversations in relation to that actual aspect of what I'm filing, that's a verbal agreement. We have an agreement here that you are, not going to violate my rights. And that's why I think notices are so important. Have you ever used notices in any aspect like that to put agencies on notice of reserving your rights?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, a gentleman friend of mine here had his kids out there at a charter school when that whole mask thing went down. I drafted him a nice lawful notification letter it shut down the whole mask thing for the whole school.
Hell yeah.
Within 24 hours. In fact, it was two
Well
and a half
done.
hours after he filed the lawful notification letter that he got a phone call. And at first, I thought he meant just his kids could return back to school in volleyball. It's all kind of revolved around that. And they don't have to wear masks. And then when I talked about it on the show, he came out and he's like, no. It affected the whole school
That's
because
cool.
of that
Wow.
lawful notification letter.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay. So this is, again, the first fundamental principle of due process of law from the common law is notice and opportunity.
Yep.
You know, think about this for a minute. Honoring your fellow man and remaining in honor and treating each other with the way we want to be treated.
Yep.
Come on, just tell me, give me notice. After I've been put on notice of this new information, this is how we tell if a man is of sound mind, possessing logic and reason, and shall come to a reasonable conclusion based in reality, or they are insane. They're not of sound mind. After you've received new information, do you have the ability to take in this new information that may be contrary to what you know or believe and change your mind?
Right.
If you can't do that, that's you have no logic and you have no reason, you're not of sound mind. Period.
Right. Yeah, that's very important. Staying in good standing is so key.
In honor,
in respect, yep, integrity,
decorum,
yep, in all morality,
common decency.
yep. And what's pretty cool about us is that we I don't know if is your group more about like studying? Because like over here we're very active. Like our people are filing motions and getting dismissals and moving civil suits and like we
Driving
are
without licenses, getting arrested, coming back
getting,
to the group saying booyah.
yeah, like super excited that we just got arrested and got a window busted because we about to bring forth a civil suit. Like that's us over here, standing in honor though, right?
I'm getting to the point where we're trying to teach people how to do the constitutional challenges.
We're doing those. We're doing those. We're doing yeah. Oh man, what? Come on, man.
Ooh. Damn, they're gonna line up,
bro.
In the court case,
it's gonna line up.
Yes, bro. What? Come on, man.
We're in alignment.
Come on, bro.
This is where we need to get.
Here go one right here. Look, Justin. 2 days ago, notice of constitutional challenge. Go ahead, Alir. Bro, tell him, Alir.
Well,
Doug,
it's actually under the
that
Declaratory Judgment Act to declare. It's an actual motion.
Yeah. Well, we do it as a notice rather than a motion. And the reason we do it as a notice rather than a motion is because if you're doing a motion on an 8.3, they're going to put it into the statutory framework side, right?
No,
but if you put it,
no.
hold on. I'm going to tell you something. Listen, watch. I'm going to tell you something. If you do an 8.3 motion aspect, first off, you're giving up jurisdiction unless you're coming from the very top and not giving it up, doing a special appearance and all that bullshit. But if you're coming through on any motion, you giving up that jurisdiction by asking and requesting the court to do something. Okay, so that's under the statutory framework under 8.3 CRR. Hold on, I feel you.
Yeah.
But if you come under, if you want to get under that constitutional body of law, the constitutional framework, per a judge verbatim, bro. We got members. We watch everybody's. If we can watch it on the screen, we watching it. If they're gonna have to record it, they record it, and we keep moving. That's how we do. We got over 500 members in the Discord alone, bro. So what? Oh, I got people in the waiting room. Hold on one second. So what we got going on is admitted verbatim from a judge. Hey man, you filed an 8.3 motion,
Yeah.
right? If you would have came, and that leaves me under the statutory framework and body of law. That's my framework I got to operate as because that's what you filed. Now, if you would have come to me with a notice and demand as the statute is unconstitutionally applied with some points and authorities, shit, we would have been under the constitutional side of the framework. And I would have had to operate out of that whole body framework and body of law. Literally, that's what he said. Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so they
Luis,
telling us exactly how to come through.
What are you talking about? 8.1. What
Not to 8.3.
8.3.
It's under the statutory framework. It's just the rule.
rule of what?
Rule of body, I guess, as far as how they taking it. I think it's the 8.3. Go ahead, Steve.
Rule
Go
of
ahead.
Roman civil law.
It's 8.
Well, yeah, but I mean, is it criminal rule of procedure, civil rule of procedure, rule of evidence?
Trial rules.
Trial rules, Chris says.
Pretty sure they would call it. I'm pretty sure they call it criminal, because that's what all that stuff is based on. That's what the jury's going to hear something regarding a crime at the end of
Yeah,
the day.
here
If
it
it goes
goes.
to jury.
Well, it's under CRR.
They're all the same number across the board. Civil, criminal, trial, basically, and state or federal.
Yeah, it's a CRR.
See, look at that. Intended to codify a common law pretrial dismissal procedure in criminal cases taken to summary judgment motions in civil cases. Okay, that's not a constitutional challenge under the declaratory judgment. Now, trust me.
That's what I'm saying.
Trust
That's
me.
why he took it like that. He said this is a statutory aspect. So I can't. That's why he's saying, because homeboy was trying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, when you go under the rules of civil procedure, which I thought I saw that there, Rule 5.1, that's under the declaratory judgment. Technically speaking, it is, even my common law pleadings book, is that we can't get away from the common law pleadings, right? It's at the root of everything. So a lot of people say, well, I don't do motions, blah, 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 blah. I make demands. Well, then they don't know the proper form of a motion. Motion
Kevin
is
gonna
how
get
you
on your
put
ass.
things in motion, and I like to explain it like a tennis court. Who is on the court in a tennis match? The referee is not on the court. He's not in the court
at all.
You only got two sides to the net, two sides to the court, offense and defense. Now, you always want to go on the offense, and you want to be the one that's serving the balls. And if you don't get a ball back, that's a default judgment or a point against a point for us, right? They have a timeline from the common law, 21 days typically, counting the day of service, giving notice, to respond and object, affirmative defenses, counterclaims, cross claims. That's how this game of tennis works from the common law. You have to give notice and afford them the opportunity to rebut, to respond. Now, this is where we get into that silence is acquiescence, only where there is a duty to respond. A lot of people say, well, we just do affidavits and they have to respond to the affidavit. No, there's nothing in motion. An affidavit has to be attached to something, to the ball. The ball is what is in motion. The affidavit is in support of something. That's where you put that under oath, is in the affidavit, and that's where you make your claims. Like I said, in the bottom of a motion, you have a prayer for relief. This is, the verbiage is demand. The word demand is in the prayer for relief. You're demanding this relief. Where there is a right, there is a duty. Rights are correlative to a duty. I have the right to a remedy. The remedy is due process of law to demand this relief because I have these rights. And that man is being paid on the clock to perform certain duties as a referee to grant relief when it is demanded.
Okay,
That's
Kirk.
how that works.
When it gets out,
Here's
when they step outside their jurisdiction, go ahead.
So I went to court, and you have to go like 2 or 3 times before they'll give you a motion hearing. And those first 2 or 3 hearings or 4 hearings or whatever it takes to get to that motion hearing, they just trample all over you. They don't give you anything. But when you get to the motion hearing, now you get to be heard. This is my experience. It's happened to me numerous times. And so relate that to what you're saying here. And how do we maneuver in these first 2 or 3 or 4 hearings when they just trample all over us?
Yeah. The thing is you have to have this knowledge, you know what your facts are. I use things like called judicial notice. They take judicial notice of facts of law. So this is one of the newest things that I've started doing is judicial notice. Facts of law. Here, judicial notice of Blackstone's commentaries on the law of England. Here's the laws of nature, 3 primary absolute rights, right? Now they've been put on notice of the law. I'm bringing the law. Okay. Then you do your paperwork, right? You got to have your exhibits, your affidavits. Everything goes together. That's served to the other side. Whoever the other side is, it ain't the judge. but this is what's called creating the record. Now, when you go to court for oral argument, you can only talk about things on the record that are in the record and properly served to the other side, afforded the opportunity to rebut, respond, and object before you can talk about it on the record.
But
And so-
generally, they won't let you even talk about what you've submitted until the motion hearing.
Yep.
Bingo.
And
That's right.
And
That's decorum.
And the state don't even be wanting to respond to us. Shit, we be hitting their ass so damn
And
hard.
that's where I
they
hit
don't
him with
respond.
default judgment. If there's no objection to what my motion, that's a default judgment. Silence is acquiescence.
Straight
He
up.
who leaves the battlefield first loses. That's a maxim of law.
That's why I be telling people this shit is chess.
That's
This
the
is
part.
battle.
But then how do you
Wielding the
enforce that?
double-edged sword here.
Hold on, Lana, go ahead.
So how do you enforce that? Because that's where I'm stuck, and I just saw my docket again, and I'm like, are you kidding me? They're still ignoring me.
Default judgment.
Writ of motion.
Default judgment. There's no objection to my motion. I served him the ball. Here's your affidavit in support of your default judgment. On such and such day, I served so-and-so with my motion.
Right, and I filed that.
Again, this is under your, I'm talking about the default judgment, motion for default judgment. Okay. And this is the statement of facts in your motion and your affidavit in support of your motion that I served so-and-so all these documents on such and such date. It is now past the time limit for them to respond with an objection to my motion. Therefore, this motion, and here's my order, order. We have to serve the order, right? And the judge signs off on that. And actually, he's not a judge. He's a referee calling balls and strikes. So he has to look at the record and go, oh, you're absolutely right. From your affidavit, your statement of facts of who did what, where, and when, the 4 W's. And he looks at that and says, yep, you did this, you followed the rule of procedure here. And I don't see anything. You're right. I don't see an objection to your motion over here from the other side. Therefore, that is a default judgment. Now, in the case that they do their typically standard MO objection, this is every person is subject to this per this code over here, blah, 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 blah. Now you have to move in for a summary judgment. Okay, that a summary judgment is when there is an objection. Now you have a summary of the facts from the record. Now your affidavit is going to be based on the facts that are submitted in the original motion, plus their argument, right? And this is how you expose their fraud. What stands on a higher plane? The laws of nature or the Constitution?
Constitutional provisions are
Laws of
mandatory.
nature.
No, the laws of nature stand on a higher plane than the Constitution because the Constitution is created by man. It's a contract. Number 2, what stands on a higher plane? Statutes or Constitution? That's the answer you were just giving.
Gotcha.
Constitutional provisions stand on a higher plane than statutes and are mandatory.
Thank you for that correction.
So, hierarchy of law, just like what I quoted earlier from Blackstone. The laws of nature are at the highest level worldwide, and anything that comes in conflict with that is void for any effect. Plain and simple. We have to learn hierarchy and learn what bodies of law stand on a higher plane than others. And that's why we need to go back to the root, the laws of nature. We need to learn that first so that we know what is fraudulent, so that we know what is repugnant to the laws of nature.
Kirk, that's a good point. And I want to bring us back to the motions and the orders that you're putting in. Isn't that's not under the laws of nature. That would be under down the roadways.
That's common law.
So
pleadings and practice of the common law.
okay. So what I wanted to say is I went into court and I didn't have an order and I didn't have motions. In fact, I was staying away from the word motion, and I put in a notice of motion. But then after that, Cam helped me with some paperwork. We just put in an affidavit with no motion. And this went in before the motion hearing. But in that affidavit, everything was laid out. And I went in there and I just stood on jurisdiction, and they dismissed the case. So I had no order, I had no motion, and they dismissed it. She dismissed it on what she called a motion, but I never filed a motion.
Typically it's on their own motion, because the court can do it on their own motion, the prosecutor can do it on their own motion, or we can do it on our motion. Right?
They called it a motion, but it was a statement in my affidavit.
Right, but
or a notice.
The court did it upon their own motion, based on your affidavit. You put them in a pickle.
Which they called a motion.
Yeah, upon their own motion to dismiss. There are 3 ways to do a dismissal: upon our motion, upon the plaintiff's motion, or upon the court's motion. There are 3 different ways a motion can be, done, especially motion to dismiss. And like it says in most of the rules of procedure, that especially in like the family law stuff, it specifically says in there, if jurisdiction is even brought up, the court upon its own motion is to dismiss the case. They're not even allowed to argue jurisdiction in family law. Imagine that. Because it's all shmew.
Mm-hmm. Stuff made up.
Stuff made up. And you're right. Motion is movement. You're moving the court of record. You're serving the ball. You're giving them notice. You're affording them the opportunity. This is how we make our arguments. This is, basically like talking to one another. And you've got the referee sitting outside of the court, looking down, going, okay, was that within the bounds? Was that properly served? Because your motion can be denied or dismissed because you didn't properly serve them. Insufficiency of service of process. If you didn't follow due process of law, your motion can be denied or dismissed. Due process of law works both ways. We have to follow due process of law. Just because they're not,
well, that's
doesn't
what
mean
we do.
We don't have to follow it.
Well, we do a lot of utilizing their own rules against them in the courts. That's the whole point of everything.
Yes.
They always violate at every point in time. And then when we call to do anything that we're doing now, see, a lot of our people are coming in for the first time, like Hayden, for instance. Hayden just finally had his first hearing. We posted it up on YouTube. And what's amazing is that, when people are coming to us, because we just started all this, and it's a collective thing. It's not like me. It's like everyone. And when Hayden came into this, he already had an attorney that had paid him $5,000. And all the attorney had did was do a plea deal, right? He had given Hayden the information, the body cam, but he never had gotten the dash cam. And he saw what happened, and we had retained it, and we went through it and did a review. And Hayden was just never been in trouble, never had no issues, never defended himself, was very worried and skeptical of us, like dead ass, bro. I was like asking as many questions as he possibly could to figure out, like, are these people legit or are y'all just trying to scam me?
Right.
And what we did is we just kept working with him. He dropped his attorney. The attorney literally had only filed one motion over to the DMV for some kind of issues with his license at that point, some kind of hold or suspension, and claimed that he had worked 55 hours on the case, thereby taking all of Hayden's money, right? So it's malicious malpractice, and we'll probably go after him, I think, after Hayden gets this all resolved. But in his first hearing, he literally smashes, bro. I'm talking about smashes. Literally demolished the whole thing to where, from the point of where the cop flashed his light into the car, and this is like within the first 30 seconds or a minute, and says, you're going to give me whatever I want, that's where the judge ends up saying that everything after that has to be suppressed.
Yep.
It's fruit of the poisonous tree.
Motion to suppress.
Yeah,
all
doctrine.
evidence for being unlawfully obtained.
And now he just did his second evidentiary hearing, which is pretty much the arguments aspect, and he did really good as well. And this goes from a person who is literally not very well outspoken, was totally skeptical, and is now, from this point on, I think in his life, has the foundation and base from Operation Wisedome and others, I would think a little bit, to fully defend himself in any manners, or present himself, should I say, in any manners throughout the rest of his life, and probably anybody else that he deals with or has close associations with. And that to me is like one of the most important things, that we can take people collectively that don't have the power of knowing who they are and turn that knowledge into empowerment to therefore get themselves out of the illegal actions of what you just pay $5,000, or what they're saying is illegal actions. You know, you pay $5,000 to help you. They couldn't help you. You do it yourself. And now the whole case is about to get dismissed. Right. And so that's what I think is just so powerful, with seeing these type of aspects of us just coming together and learning, bro. In this whole aspect, it just trips me out. It trips me out so much. So.
Yeah. I'm very interested in hearing what has worked for you and other people.
Ty will tell you what works. Ty, go ahead and tell him.
I just told him. Where were you? You weren't here.
I was dealing with the kids. I was dealing with the girls. Yeah, the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry that happens sometimes.
So
I told him you filed an affidavit, and I just went in and stood on jurisdiction.
Yeah, we filed a 33-page affidavit of fact on their ass, point by point, really deep in detail. And
wow.
We got so deep in detail with their ass, she came through and he just challenged jurisdiction over and over and over. Three times, I think, actually. And they was just like, all right, finally.
Three.
Yeah.
Rule of three. Go figure.
The thing is that the rule, what is the rule of three?
Well,
what it is
you can't.
How many times do you have to, I hate to use this joke here, but what do you tell a woman with two black eyes? I done told her twice.
Nothing.
So the rule of three is you have to give them notice 3 times. And this is how we test whether they are of sound mind. Can they comprehend what I'm telling him? If they can't comprehend what I'm telling him, he's not of sound mind. So we're going to have to go, declare this man to be mentally incompetent, because I told the man 3 times and he still doesn't get it. He might be one of those men that actually have to hit his thumb with a hammer to know that it's going to hurt. Because he doesn't possess common sense here. No logic and reason. I've tried to reason with the man 3 times, which actually is biblical. And I can't get through to him. His brain's just not functioning. He's totally incompetent. He's mentally incompetent. So anything that he would try to say or submit as evidence is void for any effect, because he's mentally incompetent. I done told him 3 times.
Alira, go ahead.
I just wanted to let you know that Miguel Cruz just got a win in one of his cases. The magistrate about the private criminal complaint, that's been dropped and is no longer going to be followed through on. So it's back to just the civil case.
Well, he texted you something, he put it in the Discord.
It's in the Discord, and he messaged me on Telegram.
Oh, let's fucking go, bro.
So that's in there for you to go check out. He put the letter and everything that he got. And it's both his and his wife's criminal complaint against them.
So that means now they got action to actually turn that around and then bring forth the criminal complaint due to the new substantiating facts of them. So what's going to happen in relation? Yeah. So what's going to happen in this is because it's already in the process. Like, we started up a process. What ends up happening is that homeboy had filed an injunction with some lawyers. He had some property issues with his neighbors. His neighbors are pretty, they're pretty wild with it. And what ends up happening is I think that he gets with his lawyers. They try to file an injunction with a TRO. The injunction was a little bit weak on the requests. It had great material facts. The facts were there. It was just the requests, as far as the injunction and providing the elements of what they wanted as far as relief requested, was really weak, actually. And so he ends up coming over to us and finding us through some different avenues, and we just start getting to work. We had to throw some things up to the Supreme Court answering, the judge not wanting to do things right, tried to deny some motions. We do reconsiderations and make her do her fucking job. And then, she submits it over to the Supreme Court, and we get up to the Supreme Court. That's moving on that side. But in the process of everything going on is just fucking wild as it is, like so many filings that we have to do in responses for his case. His shit is fucking tedious. But in that process, I think like what, a month ago maybe? Yeah, because I was in Utah when I remember it when he called. No, it was about a month ago now. Because it was right before I had the event, or right after, or in the process of. Yeah, they're mowing the lawn. The neighbors are, and they go and they're throwing branches at Miguel and them, and they hit his wife with the lawnmower. So Miguel and them call the police. It's on camera. They call the police and everything, and the police don't end up utilizing Miguel. They utilize the other person as bringing forth the complaint. So Miguel develop some letters. I tell him, go up there and have a talk, do a notice of liability, start getting the process going to get this in favor of you and get an appointment set up and get this reversed. Well, it wasn't. What ends up showing up is a criminal complaint from them against Miguel. And we're like, oh my God, bro, there's no way, bro. Miguel calls the police, and now a complaint is now against him when they're the ones that did the wrongs.
Right.
So now that criminal complaint finally has gotten dropped, now it's time to reverse that, bring forth ours, and then do a whole civil suit. But yet at the same time, getting that police department to do the right thing, because they've already messed up so bad that they're going to have to. That means we're going to have to get the city attorney involved. The attorney general possibly, and any kind of Department of Justice civil rights divisions, to really enforce what's going on. And that's what I'm starting to notice, Kirk. You asked what's working on our side. What I'll notice is that when what I've been doing is sending over emails, bringing forth, statutes and codes which they are bound to abide by, right? And we're invoking them, right? Because if you just send an email and request something, you don't have the code and what they're supposed to do with some kind of time stipulation. I really don't think they give a fuck what you say.
Right.
But then also within that email, what we're doing is we're attaching a notice and demand, right? A formal notice and demand. Also stipulating in greater detail those codes that we're utilizing and how they must do what we are demanding, right? And so with that, when we CC over the Attorney General and the DOJ, what I've noticed is that that's actually getting some play, bro. Like people are responding. They're like, oh shit, we really do have 10 days, right, to respond. Like, oh wow, okay, yeah, we better do it. And it's like for my most recent civil suit through Washington State Patrol, I'm going against Washington State Patrol and 2 troopers for what they did to me. And I filed a federal complaint, but I wanted some more time because I'm dealing with a federal lawsuit in Hood River for Oregon, Portland Division. And I'm trying to get through that a little bit more, so I need some time. I know I got 90 days, right, to send over the summons. Well, the Assistant Attorney General shows up and makes an appearance on my case. And I ain't even sent the summons yet, right? So it's just crazy to see already CCing them in the aspects of violations that Washington State Patrol did to get the information as far as footage and everything that I needed, made them later pay attention so much that they ended up making an appearance on the record and is honestly kind of looking at doing some kind of settlement agreement. They actually in those type of talks. And so that's what's kind of cool. I think that's what's working, is CCing the Attorney General, making sure we send a strong email if we're doing any kind of correspondence. And if you want to do snail mail, that's cool too. But with a notice and demand, with everything specified as far as what they're supposed to abide by on their own statutes, policy, and codes.
Yeah, that's
That'd be a writ of
instructing
prohibition.
your public servant to discharge the duties of his office.
Yeah.
You're giving him notice, the first fundamental principle of due process of law. And they obviously, when you're talking about the Attorney General, he knows when you're giving him a notice and demand for performance of duties. Again, back to the Constitution, but when you're
I'm just really glad that I'm just really glad I got the Attorney General actually to make an appearance rather than a real attorney, let's say, that's in law. And I'll tell you why. You already know that Washington has some of the best laws in relation to a right to travel.
Yes.
And the Attorney General opinions on the right to travel in Washington are some of the strongest in the nation.
Yep.
So all I got to do is literally reference their own statements and public opinions that they've put out. You see what I'm saying? It's so easy. So that's why I say I'm actually very excited and happy. I at this point, if I start seeing some egregious shit, I'm gonna get pissed. But at this point right now, of course, I'm fairly happy that the Attorney General actually did pick up the case. I think it's going to be in my favor. So
Yeah, I think we're going to really start seeing some major changes after June here. There's an executive order that Trump just did April 28th, published on the Federal Register May 2nd, about basically using the excess military or Homeland Security and ICE agents. They're coming in within 90 days of April 28th to all of the states down to a local level, local law enforcement to eradicate crime in the states. This goes all the way back to that executive order 13818 from December 20th of 2017. It's finally getting to the point, and I have a connection with the U.S. Marshal, and was already informed even clear back in 2022 that indictments were already being unsealed and executed. So there's already been stuff happening. People have been getting arrested. I mean, how does Gitmo get full if they haven't been arresting people? Why did the Trump administration have to build 2 new buildings at Gitmo to support the amount of people being arrested?
I haven't seen any proof of that yet. I've been waiting because I know there's plenty afoot, but I sure would love to see that corroborated.
See what?
Buildings and the people in Gitmo.
Look on Google Maps. A personal friend of mine who was actually stationed at Gitmo when he was in the Marine Corps. When I pulled that stuff up on the satellite images, he's like, "Holy crap! They've built a lot of buildings down there since the last time he was down there." Okay, he was stationed there when he was in the Marine Corps. He knows exactly what that place looks like. Nice. And they built a whole lot of stuff down there in Guantanamo Bay. So I know it's a little bit difficult to get some of the proof on some of this stuff because this is a military operation and we're just not in the need to know.
Well, you're up in Idaho, right?
Yes, sir.
You know about the Bundys then, huh?
Oh, yeah. I know Ammon personally.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you know everything that happened in relation to what they found out with Michael Little and all that?
Michael Little?
Yeah.
I don't know that one.
Come on, man. That was their right-hand man that did a lot of their lawyer work.
Oh, yeah. I actually met him. Was that his name?
Yeah, Mike Little. And they killed his ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, they killed him.
Yep.
Yeah, he got poisoned, bro. See, he was the one with the Bundys who end up finding and claiming that 11.5 million acres in Nevada.
Yep.
Then that's why they killed him. And then I don't know, have you seen the complaint that they brought forth?
I haven't. I tried to get him. I talked to him about the right of petition and going to Congress on this stuff back when it was happening.
Yeah, with Bundy and them, we got the whole complaint, but they end up losing it, bro. They end up losing it. They didn't reply, and I don't know what's going on or why they didn't reply. But they end up. Where's the chat? Oh, right here. Here go the complaint right here. For them when they filed it, but they end up losing it. We checked the docket, and they end up losing it because they didn't respond back in time. And we're over here sitting back. We're over here look like, why the fuck wouldn't they respond? This is the biggest damn lawsuit ever, bro. Like, what is going on? So I'm wondering if some back end thing they would say, hey man, don't say nothing. We're gonna work out something on the back end because ain't nothing. Yeah, like this is bro. This is the biggest complaint in history. How y'all not gonna respond?
Now, do you remember Eric Parker? That was the man who was laying prone with the AR-15 pointed through the cracks of the deal there, right? You know, they were all found not guilty. This was over there in Pahrump, Nevada, the first time in the wash there.
Okay.
He's actually been working with Matt Gaetz and some other congressmen for a couple of years now. So based on all that stuff and under investigation of the FBI and other, even in Oregon, when that went down there with Lavoy Finicum and all that stuff, when they murdered Lavoy Finicum. So don't be surprised if some stuff actually comes out of all this. The judicial branch is not the end all be all.
Right.
Article 4, Section 4, domestic violence is actually internal insurrection, an attempt to overthrow the Constitution and war against the people. That's what the real domestic violence is. And what does it say? On application of the legislature or the executive, that the legislature cannot be convened. Meaning the judicial branch doesn't have jurisdiction.
Right.
Which is exactly what the
Republican
Brunsons
form of
were told.
government, the executive branch and the legislative branch creates the judicial branch.
Right.
Means,
well, the people create the judicial branch.
Yeah.
Right. That's done through the Constitution. Everything. The judicial powers vested herein. We, the people, write that. Then what we delegated was the power to create inferior courts under the jurisdiction that was delegated. Now, federal Article 3, Section 2, if we read it, what are the jurisdictions in there? Admiralty and maritime. Where does it say common law? It doesn't.
Right.
Common law is reserved to the people. See the 10th Amendment.
Yeah.
Law of nations. We the people are the sovereign body politic. All political power is inherent in the people. We have the right to
say that again. Wait, say that again, bro. Wait, say that again, bro.
Anything at any time we deem it necessary.
Say it again, bro.
We the people. People is the status.
What about that power, though?
All of it.
What about
not some of it, not most of it, but all of it.
Say it
but we
again.
all have to follow the process that is due.
Okay, say it again. Power is what?
Who it is that we're going after, what we're trying to do, dictates which branch of government it goes to.
Okay, Kirk, but say it again. All power is what?
All political power is inherent in the people.
Shit, not just political, bro. All power.
All of it. Not some of it, not most of it, but all of it. And then under the right of petition, it says we have the right to consult, peaceably assemble, to consult for our common good and instruct our representatives. That right dictates that they sit down, shut up, and do what they're told to do by the masters, the people.
Okay, but you ain't got to be that crucial about it. I mean,
yeah, I do.
Damn.
Some of them are pretty hard-headed and don't comprehend the powers of the people.
I get it, but see, that's the problem. I feel like we've had all these people out here just going off, and that's just not getting stuff done, because then they just get mad at us. And if we just come on this more unification and bridge the gap, we're gonna get a lot more done, bro. And that's not what's been being done. It's always been like, I'm against you and rah rah rah. And it's just like, bro, we need to get to the point of being like a salesman, okay, and convince them that it's better to be on a unification side of morally caring about each other and then having gratitude towards our great creator than it is to sit here and tit for tat each other over and over. I'm tired of it because it ain't doing anything.
But we
it
got to break through the psyop first.
Yeah,
and it takes a shock to break people through the psyop.
One of the techniques that Chris and I developed was try to get the judge pissed off, but not pissed off at us. Get pissed off that he's being lied to.
Exactly.
And there's perjury here, Your Honor. Subordination to perjury. How do you feel about being lied to, Your Honor?
Yep.
Oh, once you start pointing out that he's been lied to by them over there, and you start pointing fingers at their corruption, their fraud.
But wait.
Now the judge has been put on notice, and then we get into what?
But wait.
Felony.
But even before then, see, we like to go to the district attorneys before court even starts.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we like to, because we're attorneys, right? So we don't need someone to go to the district attorney's office to talk for us. We just go talk to them, right? And when we do, what we end up finding out is they're actually, well, at least what I'm dealing with so far, they're actually pretty nice when you give them respect. Because a lot of us are, I don't think really any of us are criminals in here. I don't think we deal with criminals, right? If you commit a crime, don't come asking Wisedome to help you out. You actually gonna have to go deal somewhere else, because we ain't about them crimes, bro. We don't deal with that shit. If you commit a crime, you gotta pay your time, bro. It is what it is, man. I ain't about to play about that. We don't commit crimes, so don't ask us for help.
You hurt somebody, you better know.
Yeah, that's straight up. But on the other side, we're getting treated, and they're out here saying that traffic violations are crime, when we know People versus Battle says traffic violations are not a crime. And they treat us just wild. So by defending ourselves out here, we're putting ourselves into a position to where We just retain all that power. And when we're going to the district attorneys in the manner of saying, I know you have to deal with major shit all the time, right? These rapists and murderers and real deal crimes and things that are just, I don't see how you do your job, right? Having to deal with all the things that you have to see day in and day out, and the reports and the pictures, right? Because I really put myself in their shoes like that. I don't think I don't think a lot of us really do put ourselves in their shoes. They literally have to see the worst of their community almost every day.
Yeah.
We really don't think like that.
That's why I'm concerned with the police officers too. Once they start catching on it, they've been lied to. I mean, there's millions of them. I mean,
and cops in and of itself. If you put
Half of them ain't gonna care.
If you put yourself,
but that's what's coming, folks. That executive order is the military is coming in and retraining, and also going to be gutting your local city police. It's actually pronounced policy.
Good.
This is that erecting a multitude of new offices, sending hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out our substance. It's in the Declaration of Independence as a declared act of tyranny. That's because that's a despotic government.
Well, I guess you're right. We should stop calling them police and just call them policy from now on.
That's the origin of the word. It's pronounced policy. Sound it out. P-O-L-I-C.
Look at that policy officer. I mean, policy officer. I mean, yeah, policy. Yeah.
That's what they were talking about in the Declaration of Independence, because originally the king created this policy officers because he did an audit of his military and found out he did not have enough of his own military to defend the realm. So what did he do? He created the policy officer to man the ports to regulate foreign commerce. That is the origin of the policy officer. Now, what did he do? He extended admiralty jurisdiction and vice admiralty jurisdiction beyond its ancient limits. This is in the Declaration for the Causes and Necessity of Taking Up Arms, July 6, 1775. Why did we take up arms? Because of these standing armies, armed bodies of men that's foreign to our form of government. We're not a militia, a well-regulated militia. Second Amendment is what is necessary to the security of a free state.
You know what's interesting when you say, you know what's interesting when you say that's foreign to our form of government? You know what comes to my mind is the aspect that our form of government was made to allow for any one of us to set up our government or our rules or our nation or our community however we see fit, as long as it wasn't harming other people. And that in and of itself is pretty deep, because it's like, yeah, we set up this government, but the government was set up to allow you to govern yourself however the hell you wanted to. It's like, it brings up something I saw yesterday. Cops are walking through this house somewhere in Utah where there's like 150 dogs and cats inside, right? And to me, in my mind, that person that's doing that probably loves the life that they're living. And that's their fantasy. Their life is like, I got 150 dogs and cats and I'm living my life and all of these dogs and cats need me and this is just the reality I want to live. And it's like, we going in and interjecting and getting ourselves involved with this person's wants and desires and their reality and their own self-governance. They ain't hurting nobody. Like, so, it's like, it's weird to me how I see, you know what I'm saying? Like, we have free will and choice to do what we want, but yet no matter what, there's always someone trying to interfere with how we just want to live. And that's very bothersome to me, bro.
Right. Let's take that situation right there. You got a man that's got 150 dogs and he's struggling to take care of these dogs because he has compassion. So what should we be doing? We should be offering help.
Right.
Not going, hey, you're committing a crime and, that's a bill of attainder or bill of pains and penalties because the code says it's a crime.
Yeah.
That's what we got to comprehend about them bills of attainder, bills of pains and penalty. Again, you read Bouvet's Law Dictionary, 1856, law, civil. The Roman civil law is all enforced through bills of pains and penalties.
You say Bouvier's? I say Bouvier's. I thought it was Bouvier's.
It's Bouvier.
Oh,
It's
okay.
French.
Bouvier. Oh, okay. My bad.
This
I
is
don't
what
know
I'm
French
trying
like
to.
that. Don't do me
I
like
had
that,
a hard
Kirk.
time with it for quite some time. How do you say that word again? I had a gal that
This is
knew French because I always called it Bouviers. She says no, it's Bouviers.
Okay,
There's no
okay.
R.
R
I
silent.
mean, there is an R there, but in French, it's Bouvier.
Yeah,
So learn
uh,
something new every day, you know, right?
yeah.
And
this is what
what
I'm
I
Now
trying
wait
to
a
get
minute.
what I
through.
learned today is what I learned yesterday was wrong.
Now let me ask you something. Did you say you was associated in some form or fashion with Christopher Hauser?
No.
No,
Hallett.
Howlett,
Hallett.
Hallett. Okay, Hallett. Yeah, I was
Florida,
okay, Florida.
murdered November 15th, 2020.
Okay. Sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah, we were
Don't-
taking down the bar and we were working on some pretty serious stuff in the judicial branch. You're talking about this. Have you heard this weaponized government, weaponized courts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll show you. I can show you some documents of our petitions specifically about weaponized family courts from 2017.
Well, if you want to, go ahead.
But not
We
today.
got some people doing.
Oh,
We
okay.
got some people doing family court, so that'll be useful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, family court is new for me. Like I ain't done a lot of family court and I really don't like it. I really don't like family court. But we're working
Well,
through it.
that original petition that started had 3 different people's names in there, and one of them was out of Ector County, Texas. And we were reporting on the judicial corruption, the child trafficking aspect of some things in there. And the whole entire family court, magistrate division of family court in Ector County, Texas was abolished. Bulk transfer over 1,250 cases to the district court scheduled for dismissal on December 20th of 2018. That's the power of petitioning and going to the legislature, the legislative branch. We went to Congress on this and ended up working with Senator Ted Cruz for that thing starting in 2017, ended basically in 2018. But there again, going to the legislative branch for the redress of grievances, taking down corruption.
Quick update I wanted to do. I don't know if anybody knew about this yet, but I don't know. Oh wait, I gotta do maybe.
Hey, you matter, and it's okay to ask for support.
Let me get this right.
If you feel alone, or anxious, or overwhelmed, or unaccepted, or
Join
like no one
Operation
understands
Wisedome.
you,
I'll be right back.
We can hear that advertisement.
I know.
Office is looking for.
Okay,
Thank
so
you,
this
Kirk.
is kind of wild. I don't know if y'all can see the screen. Can y'all see the screen?
Yeah.
Erica.
Y'all know who this is, right?
Erica Montgomery.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Damn. They did her
This woman,
dirty.
investigators say this is Erica Montgomery. They say she assaulted 2 officers with a crowbar during a 2023 traffic stop in Sedona. She did not appear for the final day of trial, and as a result, a warrant has been issued for her arrest. Police say she was combative during the initial encounter and began fighting with them when they tried to get her out of the car. She could face between 10 years and 20 years in prison.
Why'd they put her on the news though? It was blowing my mind. Why did they have to do that?
I don't know, but I got a message from her this morning, and she stated at like 12 o'clock that she went to go turn herself in, and they said that there was no warrant for her to turn herself in. So if that is true, what ends up
Dang.
happening is that the news just put out some pretty
False
bad,
Slander.
slander.
Wow.
That's slander,
That's
basically.
slander, yeah, big time. So
Yeah,
that
she left
that's
court.
crazy.
She left court in an ambulance to go to the hospital because she was sick.
Yeah,
That's
that's
what she told you, right?
Yeah, that's what she. Yeah, this is what she sent me here. Can y'all see the screen?
I think it's coordinated because there's no reason why the news should be putting her business out there like that on her first. This is just me speculating, but it does make sense to me. Why is the news talking about this woman on her first case scenario, and then just putting all our business out there. Like that's just not right.
And
Because
not
they're
right.
and
trying
who
to
called the
build their case against sovereign citizens and making people who actually ask questions and are not combative, they're trying to turn it around. And so they're creating this narrative to enforce their force.
Character assassination.
Ooh, that's
That's the word.
Lana,
Thank you. Thank you. That's it.
I get
Character.
you. Yeah.
They're grooming the
Yeah.
they're grooming the
I'm
pup.
not. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just. It's one
The
of those
whole point of
questions that.
the whole point of media and all of this news bullshit, because it's supposed to be entertainment, that was judged years ago, that they admitted that news channels are actually just entertainment, not actual fact, and they use it as their tool of propaganda. We know that.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just. It's.
Operation
Oh my gosh.
Mockingbird.
It just. Oh my goodness.
yeah, it's pretty sad because the thing is that they're already saying on this website too she was found guilty last day of trial.
I think there's a link to send that lady that wrote that article an email. I was looking through there last night, or I'd get on her Facebook page and throw some comments.
Can you see her docket to see if they actually did come down with a guilty plea?
It comes out of Sedona, and she's here. Let me see what court she's in. I'll share so y'all can see what's going down. She's where's our overleaf at? America.
Somebody mentioned Operation Mockingbird. Yeah. 2014, I went down that rabbit hole and found 116 world-renowned, not world-renowned, all the mainstream media is all controlled by essentially 9 people.
Nice.
Imagine that.
Her court is the Superior Court of the state of Arizona,
Oh, geez.
county of Yavapai.
Arizona's so corrupt.
There's something like 13 families, 13, I believe.
Committee of 300, the 13 families, all Jesuits.
It's all banking at the end of the day.
And here's her,
the post office is a banking institution.
And here's her case number as well.
I hate saying human trafficking because I do not like to use the word human, because what is hue? Hue is color. Human stands for color of man. I don't want to be a color of law, color of authority, color of man. I want to be man. I am man.
Well, hue is Hui, and Hui is old.
So. And hue is color.
Yeah, but see,
see again. You have to.
Now you're talking.
Wait.
They mean when they use these words.
Kirk, I'm gonna hit you, bro. Let me give you some. So, English is new, right? So you got hue, which in the English being new, is actually Hui. Okay, and Hui comes from Nahuatl. And Nahuatl precedes English. It's actually the oldest language here in America. Our Nahuals, our Toltecs, those are the original Americans, which are also known as the Atlanteans. They're the original Atlanteans. America is Atlantis, right? So Hui, H-U-E, is actually Nahuatl, and it means old. And when the Toltecs spoke of where they came from, they spoke of America as Hue Tlapalan, which means the old red land. So if we really breaking down etymology, hue, as far as a color is concerned, that English aspect is way after the original aspect of how it was used. As far as Hue, H-U-E, you have humans, you have humats, you have lots of people.
Hue means color. Old English, hue, color, form,
with the etymology,
species, kind, beauty, earlier, Howie, and it's Germanic.
Okay, now
which
look
according
up
to Watkins is constructed
not
to be
necessarily true.
Kirk, now look up Hui. Like what I'm trying to tell you, I'm actually kind of like a historian too, bro. Like I don't just do this. So there's an earlier aspect, like I was just explaining, of hue or Hui, and it comes from an older language which is called Nahuatl, and Nahuatl is like the oldest language in America.
Okay, but again, that's not what they're using.
Okay,
I
get it. I know.
Hue man.
Well,
it's color of man. That's the trickery. That's that straw man, the color of man, hue man. And they also define human as a monster in their own code. Okay.
Human being specifically
Blared-eyed
is what's
monster.
considered as monster. Yeah.
Yeah. So color of man as being a straw man, that corporation. And this is where they gain their personal jurisdiction, is because of the birth certificate. We're supposed to be born, not birthed. Ships are birthed. This is the law of the Holy See, Vatican, and it's supposed to be the law of the water. But again, they're actually coming under ecclesiastical law from the Roman civil law. Souls and trust. Why do they want your soul print? Footprints, soul prints?
That's why these courts, if you look at these courts, so you look at them from a I guess like a Google Maps, if you will, you'll see that they look like foreign vessels on dry dock. Is what the common distinction is made. Well, not I want to say common, but you'll see it. They literally look like a vessel, like a vessel that's supposed to be on the water, but it's on the land. And so anyway, that's why they're called foreign vessels on the dry dock, and therefore,
because you go to the dock
bills of lading, and yes, exactly, all those specific rulings, all of those specific rules are applied, and therefore, people don't necessarily aware of it, but
they claim that the hospital is a foundling, and the mother, when they sign the birth certificate, are abandoning the son or daughter. Seeing there again, change of diction.
Well, they take control of the second birth. The firstborn is the natural. The secondborn is the fictitious entity, which is the afterbirth.
Yeah. So pursuant to common law, we're supposed to publish, right, in the public announcements, right, public notice, that a son or daughter was born to the name of the man and woman as the father and mother. Now, this is where diction, words, right? Instead of saying parent and child, which is under parens patriae, where the state is the parent, which is where all family law comes from, and then the whole form of government that basically is under parens patriae, the state is the parent. Well, yeah, there's your soul prints. They've stolen your soul. You've given your soul up to your son and daughter, but they use the words parent and child. That's Roman civil law. Under Catholicism as an ideology, Roman Catholic Church, that's the religion of parens patriae, parent and child, versus mother, father, son, and daughter. Those are all persons. Those are, in propria persona, in your proper person. Now, mother and father are sovereign over that which they create, because again, sovereign is creator. So proper diction puts you under what body of law, depending on what words you use. So if you use parent and child, you're going to go over under parens patriae, Latin, the state is the parent. If you use mother, father, son, and daughter, you're under common law, under God's law, the laws of nature. Naturally, fundamentally, and principally, the mother and father are the sovereign over their sons and daughter, and you may call them your property. Now, I've actually had people use this in court and demand the return of their property. And we had one situation where we helped the mother and the father do the documents, send this in, and demand the property. Then they go into court, and the judge is like, "Well, you sure you want to call them your property?" Blah 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 blah, and they changed their paperwork, and we said, "No. Well, the father wanted to go with what they wanted. The mother changed it back. Went back into court, and the court's like, "Well, I thought we already discussed this, that it's parent and child." She's like, "No. Laws of nature, God's law. I am the mother, and this is my son or my daughter, and that's my property, my chattel. And I'm demanding my property be returned to me that has been unlawfully taken from me without my consent, without due process of law, and without the consent of a jury."
Absolutely.
Judge immediately dismissed the case, ordered CPS to return their property. It's all about
It's
the
all about
diction
who
words
you
we
are.
use.
It's all about knowing who you are.
That's it. Claim and exercise. And then defend.
Would the writ of prohibition help there?
No, writ of prohibition is to basically under challenging of jurisdiction, yes. But you first have to articulate your right as the sovereign over that which you created, right? Son and daughter. You have to change the words that we use. So these are what's known as key words, right? This will ring their freaking bell. When you start using these words, they go, oh, change of jurisdiction. You're claiming common law. So now you're evoking the common law. That jurisdiction, that body of law is what prevails is we bring the law. The law say you're, I say what the law is here.
Is there, hey, Kurt, is there something I can't remember exactly, but is something about to do with syntax?
Oh, I really don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but.
Well, I'm just saying, is that what government uses is listed with the syntax or something like that?
Words.
Well,
double speaking.
Russell J. Gould, which I've personally met, talked with. Now, David Wynn-Miller, I didn't actually get to meet him, but this part is the proper syntax, grammar, and all that stuff. I do not agree with, because if you read when they write in that so-called proper syntax, grammar, it's like broken English and sounds like a freaking 2-year-old. And then they write in all capital letters here and there, and it's just like, come on, really? I mean, English is like my worst subject. But because of all of my reading, I've learned, this is why I should have been reading back in grade school and high school, but I hated reading. And now here I am reading on a daily basis, but it's law. I mean, that's pretty much all I read is law. No, I don't read any other books or, sometimes I'll read a magazine if it has to do with cars or motorcycle, vroom, vroom. I'm a gearhead. I grew up around race cars since I was 4 years old. So
I feel you there.
Awesome.
I am a gearhead. It's in my blood. I can't get, mom and dad raced cars at 4 years old. So that's what I grew up around. Which is probably where I get my extremely high mechanical aptitude, is because of that. What I learned at, starting at 4 years old, what tools were and how to start using them. But, yeah, we're so impressionable at a young age, and it really makes a huge difference later in life, what we're taught as a kid, as a son and daughter at a young age. So, man.
Absolutely, it does. I grew up as a farmer, and then I was an engineer, and then I got thrown into government thanks to the NAFTA shit in the late 90s.
Yeah, a lot of people want to dog us rednecks, farmers, because that's kind of how I grew up too. Grandma and grandpa had a farm. We had a small little bit of a farm, and then we got into woodworking when I was 8. Started learning Finnish carpentry at 12 years old. I was learning how to hang doors and do trim windows. By the time I was 14, I was pretty proficient in Finnish carpentry.
Oh, yeah.
So other aspects of life that I've learned,
And I was driving by the time you're, 12 years old. So,
oh, yeah. 8 years old, I'm out there running the John Deere tractor.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
By the time I was 12, I was bucking 75-pound bales of hay by myself.
Yeah, yep.
I was a farm boy. I was packing 80-pound sacks of feed by myself at 12 years old.
Yeah, my dad has a large organic wheat farm in northern Utah. Still has it in our family.
Yeah. But everybody seems to think farmers are dumb. I'll tell you what, farmers have to be a mechanic. They have to be an electrician, construction, and all these.
You gotta be innovative because you're freaking out. Too many help.
Yeah, They have to learn how to do all this stuff themselves. So, you know, sometimes the way farmers talk, they sound pretty dumb. But even some of the real dumb ones, they'll surprise you.
Oh,
They'll
yeah.
really surprise you. Their knowledge and skills and abilities. A whole different lifestyle and a way of thinking, let me tell you.
I've learned that farmers are among the smartest people in the country.
Yep.
In fact, one of the highest IQs is a farmer, at least self-proclaimed. So,
yeah, you want to talk about how to work the land and deal with animals? Go talk to a farmer.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Bringing them back. They're trying to take them down, but we need to bring them back. I'll tell you.
Yep. And that is what's coming, folks. You know, I've been covering this stuff since 2017 and trying to break it down and let people know, you know, it's coming. We're having a return to the common law, the Constitution as the supreme law of the land. And man, we're on the cusp of the major takedown, and then we're going to get to see it. Like Trump said there, this term, the beginning there, I can't remember if it was at his inauguration, but I think it was like the second or third time that he came out after the inauguration, and he flat out said, I don't know if the people are ready to see executions, but they're going to get to see it.
I want to see some freaking hanging.
So it's coming. And in fact, I just saw an article here by our local news station in Idaho that they're remodeling the old state prison for firing squads. What wonder why that's going on?
I don't know, but I hope they're going to gather up some. Yeah,
it's coming, folks. A lot of these, you know, Trump said the first time around that
For bar attorneys.
There's going to come a time where these people are not going to be able to walk down the street because they're a bunch of pedophiles, and we know.
Yeah.
And then Trump said he's going to wipe these people off the face of the earth. He's talking about the Satanists, the Jesuits, the pedophiles. That's what's coming. He even said he was going after the drug dealers, and he said specifically, and I'm referring to the pharmaceutical industry.
Yep.
We're seeing this being taken down right now. JFK Jr., what's he doing? Abolishing all of this stuff that's poisonous, that's already been prohibited and abolished in other nation states and countries.
Hilaire, go ahead.
Stop that geoengineering too.
Nice.
Quick.
Yep.
I was just wanting to point out one of the biggest things that stuck in my mind when you spoke about the family courts and how to use those is when you brought up that there's a rule about jurisdictional challenges that they have to dismiss immediately. That,
yep.
And I believe actually one of our members is doing that for her case right now. She's contesting their jurisdiction for her custody case.
Right, association under the First Amendment.
Well, the thing is the marriage contract binds you to the code, to the statutes relating to that. So that's part of the problem with that contract of marriage. That's what contracts do, is it binds you to the specific so-called statutes, certain parts of the code, and these rules of procedure.
What about an unwedded birth?
Well, that was one of the things I brought up to my judge in a case, was like, well, wait a minute. How do you have an action for divorce when there was no marriage contract? She's like, ooh, I want to hear this. And then all of a sudden, a change of tune the next time I come into court, because they got to her. They didn't want me to challenge that as fraud, and it would have vacated my entire case, because there's no marriage contract, there's no jurisdiction. But I also defeated the judge's own contempt of court charge against me for not going to the parenting class when I had an attorney, and that attorney sat next to me when I'm like, well, he's like, well, why didn't you go to the class? I said, where do you want me to start? It deprives me of my life, telling me I have to go in here and get brainwashed by these people for 2.5 hours. Then it deprives me of my liberty because I have to go incarcerate myself for 2.5 hours and get brainwashed by these people. I said, third, it deprives me of my property, telling me I have to pay $50 to go incarcerate myself for 2.5 hours to get brainwashed by these people. I said, no, not going to do this. And he's like, oh, well, I'm going to let you talk to the judge. So when my attorney is sitting there next to me. Now, keep in mind, and most of you already know this, but when you do have an attorney, you're one of the first ones to go. So here's a packed courtroom. I mean, people standing up against the wall, all the pews are full, and we were the second ones to go up. And my attorney's like, well, I'm going to let him talk. And the judge is like, what? He's got an attorney here. Why aren't you speaking? Well, he's wanting me to make arguments that I can't make. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, that's go-to phrases. Why can't you make the argument of life, liberty, and property? Because you're only bound by the Roman civil law, the code, because you're a member of the bar.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this is a kangaroo court. You don't recognize rights. You don't recognize the Constitution. So when I brought it up and I articulated exactly what I just said there, she's like, well, I'm going to go ahead and just find you guilty. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. We haven't even gotten a jurisdiction yet. She jumped out of her seat a little bit and she's like, I think I'm going to go ahead and dismiss this. And I stood up and turned around and I was like, holy crap, the room really filled up since I started talking. And I said, and that's how you do that. And I walked out of there.
Well done.
Nice.
So I just schooled a room full of members of the bar and people on what the law is and what the law isn't, and that they don't have any authority over that. So again, it's knowledge is power, right? How are we going to speak this if we don't know it?
Right.
That's the problem. You know, my people shall perish for lack of knowledge. The lack of knowledge that's talked about there in the Bible on that particular part, if you continue reading, is the lack of knowledge of God's law. The fundamental principles of the laws of nature. That we are to be free and independent. And the first primary fundamental principle, do no harm. It's right in the Law of Nations. It's right in Blackstone's commentaries on the Law of England. It's even in Joseph Story's commentaries on the laws of the Constitution. Pardon me. Commentaries on the Constitution by Joseph Story.
You'll like this, won't you, Kirk? No people will tamely surrender their liberties, nor can any be easily subdued when knowledge is diffused and virtue is preserved.
I love it.
That's one of my favorite words right there, virtue. How many people know what virtue is?
Real though.
The rest of it is on the contrary, when people are universally ignorant and debauched in their manners, they will sink under their own weight without the aid of foreign invaders.
Yep.
Awesome.
It's so complex, but yet it's so simple and easy. The average man should be able to read this and comprehend it.
Our founders did all the work for us. All we got to do is look for it and read it.
Well, not even that. It's just knowing it. It's just living it, really. It ain't, it's living it and knowing it. Because what's cool about homeboy Kurt, he talking about the virtue. Virtue is literally everything that what Operation Wisedome is. Because it's on the higher standards of morality. And that's what we're trying to incorporate and have people bring forth again, is the higher standards of morality. Like, that has to be reincorporated and reinstilled in our nation, and we've gotten too fucking far away, bro. We've gotten way too far away. And I think it boils down to that gratitude again, and noticing and seeing that every aspect of this reality that we are in is the great creation of the Creator. What are you doing over there, April? And must have been cleaning the phone. And yeah, you got me off. But yeah, that gratitude, I think, is what's most important, in the recognition that, again, it's just a blessing to be here. And once we get that recognition, then it's just appreciation for each and everything and every moment that we experience. And once you have that going on, then it's an uplifting, because we all have the basic knowledge to know that everybody is a creation of the Creator. And then that just sets forth a just unification of all people and a desire to uplift each other for whatever travesties that we're seeing in this life, because everybody should be seeing the best life that they possibly could have, because you only get this life right now. It's like we forget. So why not make the best of what we got and utilize that life to empower others to be the best that they can possibly be? So that way we stop seeing so much pain, travesty, we start seeing the family unit stay together instead of breaking up, to where we see that we don't have people just struck out on the streets and nobody really helping them out, to where nobody feels left or lost or behind, and we stop this theft and these travesties of taking people's private property when nobody's been hurt whatsoever. I mean, the travesties upon our nation fall in every single aspect of every color and creed. And I'm telling you, man, this traffic law reform has to be at the forefront, because if we can get these people just to really retrain their mind on free travel. I mean, I don't know who I was listening to just the other day. I think it might have been Sarah's situation. And Sarah's situation, literally, it's like, oh, if you want to travel, you can go get on a bike and walk and do whatever you want. And I can't come up to you and say anything to you unless I got probable cause. So what is the difference from me now being in my car and that same thing applying? Nothing, other than your presumptions that I have to or am required to do a thing. I am required to do no thing.
So the way I've broke it down now, based on the laws of nature and these three primary absolute rights, from the laws of nature, the right to personal liberty, again, consists in the power of locomotion. The second right, or technically the third, but the second part of this so-called right to travel is actually the right of liberty, is the right of private property, the right to acquire, possess, and utilize the free use of our private property. So again, anything that comes in conflict with the laws of nature is void for any effect. Right. You cannot convert my right into a privilege, license it, and attach a fee to it. What's the right? The right of personal liberty. So that destroys the so-called driver's license.
Well, you said you got what'd you say? The right to liberty, personal right,
liberty? Personal liberty.
Yep. You got also the right to locomotion. You got the right of self-governance. You got so many different rights that you can use.
Try to keep it simple, right?
What do you mean? I like to stack it up. I'm stacking everything. I'm stacking my cards behind me, Papa Bear.
Again, less is more.
Shit.
Yeah.
Keep it simple. Kiss. Keep it simple, stupid. Keep it so simple, it's stupid simple. I have the right of personal liberty.
A little bit of both.
Freedom of movement, right? The power. Here it is. It's the power of locomotion. Choo-choo, vroom, vroom.
That's my favorite bit.
That's
my favorite bit.
Kirk, could I read this from Samuel Adams to you? It's called The Rights of the Colonists. You ever read that?
Nope, haven't read that one.
First is the natural rights of a colonist as men. Among the natural rights of the colonists of these are these: first, the right to life; second, to liberty; thirdly, to property, and together with the right to support and defend them in the best manner they can. These are evident branches of, rather than deductions from, the duty and self-preservation commonly called the first law of nature. All men have the right to remain in a state of nature as long as they please, and in case of intolerable oppression, civil or religious, to leave that society they belong to and enter into another. What does that's part of our founding. That's what we were given through the Declaration of Independence.
They're given by God.
Right. So on avalon.law.yale.edu, and you go in under the 18th century here, the 1700s, and the Blackstone's Commentaries on the Law of England is here. And again, what's on here is exactly what is written in my books here. So this is part of that section, the second, of the nature of laws in general. Law, in its most general and comprehensive sense, signifies a rule of action and is applied indiscriminately to all kinds of action, whether animate or inanimate, rational or irrational. Thus we say the laws of motion, of gravitation, of optics, of mechanics, as well as the laws of nature and of nations. And it is the rule of action which is prescribed by some superior, and which the inferior is bound to obey. God is the superior. Thus, when the Supreme Being formed the universe and created matter out of nothing, he impressed certain principles upon that matter from which it can never depart, and without which it would cease to be. When he put that matter into motion, he established certain laws of motion to which all movable bodies must conform, and to descend from the greatest operations to the smallest. When a workman forms a clock or other piece of mechanism, he establishes at his own pleasure certain arbitrary laws for its direction, as that the hand shall describe a given space in a given time, to which law, as long as the work conforms, so long as it continues in perfection, and answer the end of its formation. Okay, but we get down into here. Oh, I mean, there's so, oh my gosh, there's so much good reading right here. But I want to try to get down to the actual three primary absolute rights. I think it's section 130, like 132, I think, and 124.
Where do you find the absolute rights?
I'm getting there to it right now. Aside from the Bible itself, Blackstone's Commentaries on the Law of England is one of the most authoritative sources on the laws of nature and the common law. Different, again, he even goes over the three different primaries, like where the common law and statute different. The common law gives place to the statute. You know, there's so much. Page 61 through like 98, he goes over Roman civil law, and it will blow your frickin' mind. You know what? I might actually, because I know it's right in the very beginning.
Can you do Control F to find that phrase?
It doesn't really work so good on this one because it's so many times these words are repeated, but I want to say it was section 120. Okay, it is 123, chapter 1, page 123. So I'm getting really, really, really close. Wait, 103. Yep, we're getting there. Oh, that's because I clicked on that other one. I got to go back. It should be right here.
Is this on your website?
No, this is avalon.law.yale.edu. And there's, man, this website, I've been on this website for many years. This has also, I mean, you want to talk about studying history of law, this is kind of one place. But before it was here, it was another website. And I'd had all sorts of bookmarks to that particular website. And then they changed who it was that was responsible for publishing all this history of law. And so all of my old bookmarks and stuff from, you know, clear back to from 2007, all are no good. Gosh, dang it. And it should be in book 1. But I don't know why. It should be the rights of persons. Yeah, page 123. This is still saying 102, 104, 110. I mean, you look at it, you got Montesquieu and his Spirit of Laws. You know, Blackstone does a lot of compilation. Littleton is another good one. Lord Cook. I mean, there's all sorts of. Ooh, what page am I on here? Page 115. What the heck? It should be. Oh, there we go. Didn't scroll down far enough. Absolute rights of individuals. All of this stuff is really good to read because that gets into that, like part of his natural liberty. This is the free will stuff that's a preliminary to the three primary absolute rights. Here we go. The absolute rights of every Englishman, which taken in a political and extensive sense, are usually called their liberties, as they are founded on nature and reason, so they are coeval with our form of government. The subject in times to fluctuate and change, their establishment being still human. At some times we have been we get down here first. The Great Charters of Liberty, which was obtained forward in hand, which is the Great Charter of Liberty, is the Magna Carta, 1215. Confirmed by Parliament of King Henry III, his son, which charter, see, these are corporate charters. Charter is corporate. Very few new grants, blah, 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 as Edward Cook observes, was for the most part declaratory of what? The principal grounds of the fundamental laws of England. All right. The right of personal security consists in a person's legal and uninterrupted enjoyment of his life, his limbs, his body, his health, and his reputation. Life is the immediate gift of God, a right inherent by nature in every individual, and it begins in contemplation of law as soon as an infant is able to stir in the mother's womb. For if a woman is quick with child, and by a potion or otherwise killeth it in her womb, abortion, or if anyone beat her, whereby the child dieth in her body, and she delivereth a dead child, this, though not murder, was by the ancient law homicide or manslaughter. But at present it is not looked upon in quite so atrocious a light, though it remains a very heinous misdemeanor. This goes against the laws of nature, as we are not to mutilate ourselves. So that's where you get into your man's limbs. This is the right to self-defense, the right over your man and wife. We get down into here. This is still all the first primary absolute right. It does talk about health in like one little sentence there. Right here, number 4, the preservation of a man's health from such practices as may produce or annoy it. I mean, I talk about keeping it simple. You can't get any more simple than that when it comes to our right to health. Preservation of a man's health from such practices, anything, as may prejudice or annoy it. You got to wear a mask. Well, that violates that fundamental right from the laws of nature. Preservation of my health is my duty, not anybody else.
Am jurisprudence, 2D, section 98. No emergency can violate the rights previously guaranteed.
Yeah. Problem is that is an improper citation, because that is not what American jurisprudence says now. You have to be very careful. Like Carl Miller said, you got to go verify stuff. You got to go read this stuff for yourself. And
I was paraphrasing.
No, what I'm saying is that is an improper citation, as American Jurisprudence 2nd edition, section 98. They have changed American jurisprudence since 1995.
Oh.
Yes. So here it is as next to personal security. This is the second primary absolute right of the laws of nature. Asserts and preserves the personal liberty of individuals. This personal liberty consists in the power of locomotion, of changing situation, or removing one's person to whatsoever place one's own inclination may direct, without imprisonment or restraint, unless by due course of law, which means due process of law, and the law of the land. because due process of law and law of the land are synonymous. They mean the same thing. Concerning which we may make the same observations as upon the preceding article about personal security, that it is the right strictly natural, that the laws of England have never abridged it without sufficient cause, and that in this kingdom it cannot ever be abridged at the mere discretion of the magistrate without the explicit permission of the laws. Here again, the language of the Great Charter is that no free man shall be taken or imprisoned, but by the lawful judgment of his equals or by the law of the land, not by statutes, not by code. And many subsequent old statutes expressly direct that no man shall be taken or imprisoned or detained without cause shown, probable cause, Fourth Amendment, to which he may make answer according to law. If any person be restrained of his liberty by order or decree of any illegal court, or by command of the king's majesty in person, or by warrant of the council board or of any privy council, he shall, upon demand of his council, have a writ of habeas corpus to bring his body before the court of the king's bench or common pleas, who shall determine whether the cause of his commitment be just, and thereupon do as to justice as shall appertain. Okay, habeas corpus, writ of habeas corpus. Okay. Of great importance to the public is the preservation of his personal liberty. For if once it were left in the power of any, the highest magistrate, to imprison arbitrarily whom he or his officers thought proper, as in France it is daily practiced by the crown, there would soon be an end of all other rights and immunities. Some have thought that unjust attacks, even upon life or property, at the arbitrary will of the magistrate, are less dangerous to the Commonwealth than such as are made upon the personal liberty of the subject. To berave a man of his life, or by violence to confiscate his estate, without accusation or trial, would be so gross and notorious of an act of despotism as must at once convey the alarm of tyranny throughout the whole kingdom. I'm here sounding the alarm of tyranny, folks, that our personal liberty is being deprived arbitrarily and is a form of a despotic government. Now listen to this right here. By confinement of the person, by secretly hurrying him to jail, where his sufferings are unknown or forgotten, is a less public, a less striking, and therefore a more dangerous engine of arbitrary government. That is exactly what they do. They call us, label us sovereign citizens, and they arrest us and take us to jail. Well, wait a minute, due process of law is you have to take me before a magistrate. You're executive branch and you're making an arrest without a warrant, either with or without a warrant. The Fourth and the Fifth Amendment require an immediate oversight of the judicial branch. And if they don't, that's what the writ of habeas corpus is about, to bring the body immediately before the judicial branch for oversight. Now, see, this is the unique part of our form of government. The way ours works, it technically speaking, at all times, takes all three branches working together to make this work lawfully, full of law, following due process of law. The legislature creates, the executive executes, and the judicial adjudicates. But each one, due to separation of powers, has the power to provide oversight of each of the other two. So again, the legislature provides oversight of the executive and judicial. The executive provides oversight of the legislative and the judicial. This is why the bailiff is supposed to be in the courtroom. This is also why there's called a sergeant at arms in the legislature. That's the executive branch in the legislature and in the judicial. The sheriff is supposed to be the bailiff, and he's supposed to ensure that the judge doesn't step out of line and that any prosecutor, which we are the prosecutor. I can show you that even in my own Idaho Criminal Practice Act is, well, wait a minute, the prosecutor and his counsel, they're talking about who the defendant can demand that only certain people exclude certain people from this initial examination, initial appearance. Well, it says except for the judge's clerk, the prosecutor and his counsel, the attorney general, the county prosecutor, and the officer holding the defendant. Well, wait a minute. Well, who's the prosecutor, and why does the prosecutor have the right to the assistance of counsel? And it clearly isn't the clerk, it isn't the attorney general, and it isn't the county prosecutor. So who in the hell is the prosecutor and their assistance of counsel? We are the complainant. This goes all the way back to common law, that we have the right to lay these complaints and be the complainant. Common law terms, words. It's in Wisconsin Constitution, Article 1, Section 21, Declaration of Rights, rights of suitors. We all have the right to prosecute our own claims. I've also found it recently here and these are current constitutions. In the Michigan Constitution, the same thing. We all have the right to prosecute our own claims. There is no distinction between civil and criminal. Plain and simple. We have the right to be the prosecuting attorney. We also have the right to be a defense lawyer. One is offense and one is defense. Plain and simple.
I love it, bro.
Yeah, that was some good facts there, man. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, Kirk be hidden, bro. I see why Doug.
This is Thank you, Kirk.
Yeah. I'm gonna be listening over and over for months on end.
Yeah, I'm going to too.
working.
That was some good information.
Yo, Kirk, how about you tell everybody where they can find you and what all you got going on, and how they can find you, how they can get in touch with you, and how they can be a part of your movement.
KirksLawCorner.com. I have links to my social media stuff there. I even have my free educational series on YouTube. It's a little bit old now. We're talking like about.
I posted that in Discord. People loved it.
Say again?
I posted that in your educational series in the Discord. People loved it. It's in our archive.
I'll be honest, guys. I have members of the bar who are watching my shows, who watch my educational series. I even got one calls himself a recovering bar member because
Nice.
he had enough of the corruption that he quit. And now he's going after them, and he's like, all right, I'm going to watch your educational series. And he's like taking notes, writing all this stuff down. He comes back to me and he's like, man, this is some really good stuff. And I'm like, dude, I've learned so much even since I did the educational series.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have.
Watch
You
them
sound
in a
like it, for sure.
chronological order, because if you don't watch them in chronological order, you're not going to get what you need from the beginning, which is the foundation of the laws of nature, are documents that founded this nation called America, which is the Lee's Resolution, Virginia Declaration of Rights, June 12, 1776, the first Virginia Constitution of June 29th, 1776, then the Declaration of Independence. All four of those documents are the origin of this nation called America. Those are the founding documents, not the Articles of Confederation and not the Constitution of the United States of America. Why would they say in the Declaration of Independence that we're being subjected to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by what Constitution? In 1776, what Constitution are they referring to? Sure isn't the 1789 or 1791 Constitution with the Bill of Rights, because that's ex
Articles
post
of
facto.
Confederation, right?
Articles of Confederation was 1781. How in the Declaration of Independence of July 4th,
That's right.
1776, are they talking about being foreign to our Constitution? What Constitution in 1776?
The common
The
law.
Virginia Constitution. That is the
Shit.
first Constitution. And I called Attorney General Barr out on this because, well, we didn't have three distinct branches of government until the Articles of Confederation and with the Constitution in 1789. I'm like, hogwash. Let's read the Virginia Declaration or Virginia Constitution. July 29th, 1776. It lays out 3 distinct branches of government. That is our true Republican form of government to start with as a foundation, fundamental law.
Straight up. So check it. I want y'all to unmute, and I want everybody to tell Kirk thank you for showing up today.
Thank you, Kirk.
Thank you.
Kirk. Awesome, Kirk.
Thank you, Kirk, for showing up.
Thank you, Kirk.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Kirk, for
Oh,
that
yeah,
video.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kirk.
Guys,
Thank
put
you
your
so
info in the
much.
chat before you go.
Hey, Kirk.
You rock, Kirk. You rock.
Hey, Kurt, is your last 4 digits of your phone number 6523 still?
Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, we show love around here, man. This Operation Wisedome, you know how we do. Yo, so this is the first 3 hours portion for YouTube. That's all y'all get, because we always go longer. So everybody say bye to YouTube.
Bye,
Later,
YouTube.
Bye,
See ya.
YouTube.
Bye, YouTube.
Tons.
Bye, YouTube.